on the sequel.
Hi, Dave. Did you see what? That was amazing, right?
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound.
I think you have to pull it.
No. She is
Usually I pull it up.
through her uncle, which was Russell.
I brought you snacks.
Russell good.
You didn't buy me any.
It's amazing, right?
Yes.
I was like,
Those are
this came out of nowhere.
these are mine.
She's in church right now.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue.
She's doing an interim over in Cherryville.
I couldn't believe it.
Please enter the meeting password followed by pound.
Let me see from the back. Somebody forgot to phone her.
You are in the meeting now. There are 2 participants in the meeting. You have been added to the waiting room. You cannot talk or listen until the host admits you to the meeting. You are muted. You can mute or unmute yourself by pressing *6.
How are you, Patty?
You are unmuted.
Four minutes. You got plenty of time. 4 minutes.
I knew you would.
Where is it? That is yours. Oh, the ID? No, it's on the phone.
Oh, boy. Yeah, okay, good. Okay.
I mean, Chromebook is a little bit difficult, but MacBook should be fine.
I know, right?
Something is wrong, even mine is.
What's that?
Is your Wi-Fi working?
If my wife what?
I
Working
figured that.
Wi-Fi.
I figured that.
Oh,
Oh, you don't have
I've already downloaded.
I got it. Yeah, it's not working somehow.
Yeah, I already got it right here.
I'm just gonna set up with my,
I got it right here. See it?
yeah. If you have a hotspot, it will push you to the hotspot.
I was gonna give him a 6-3 special. Karen, is he gonna fix the time clock?
I'm waiting.
Oh, he's doing it now. Okay.
He wants to get back on. I tried playing with it today, but I couldn't get it going.
Yeah. If not, we just have to use a. You got a clock on your phone, right?
I what?
Clock on your phone.
Yeah, but I'm using it.
Oh, okay.
I'm using the phone.
I didn't do it.
I know, but
Wait, I'm Kenny Brown.
phone ID. I see Mr. Connell in a. You're welcome to sit up front if you like, as a former council member. You can sit up front if you like. Too.
Okay. All right, I'm back on.
Mayor?
Are you muted?
I'm-
Lewis. Lewis.
Is he in, Lewis?
Not yet.
Mayor's in? Okay, we'll wait. We'll wait a couple minutes. Roger, how are you? You gotta sleep too. Okay. Okay, not a problem. Let's call the state session together right now. That February 28th is now 6 o'clock. So we are going to do invocation and then followed by the roll call. Father, we thank you for each and every one that's come out tonight. Let us be mindful, Father, that we're here to do the deeds of the city and that we have everybody in our hearts. And all that we do and say tonight, we think of you. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Ettinger?
Here.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Here.
Mrs. Rose?
Here.
Dr. Ruggles?
Here.
Mrs. Sultana?
Here.
Mayor Panto? Okay.
Hey, thank you. At this time, approval of the agenda. But prior to that, I would like to remove the swearing in of the officers and move that to the 3/13/24. So we'll approve the agenda now, and then we'll go and approve the new agenda.
I move to approve with the amendment.
We have a move
Second with.
and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Mayor Panto? And Mr. Brown?
Aye. And now we're going to approve the new agenda with the removal of the swearing in. Moved.
Second.
And second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Oh, aye.
Mayor Panto? Mr. Brown?
Aye.
And Mr. Ettinger?
Aye. Okay. We have a presentation scheduled for this evening. They can come forth now.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, I just wanted to give them a quick intro. So,
Thanks,
so
Sue.
sure. So, City Council is aware that we do have a climate action plan, and the Nurture Nature staff really was integral in helping us create that plan, which Council adopted a few years ago. With us tonight, Lauren Fosbenner is part of the staff of Nurture Nature Center. Kate Siemens will be giving the main presentation along with her coworker Maggie Beechtra. They are located in Idaho and Washington D.C. respectively, so that's why they're dialing in. But the main reason we wanted to approach City Council tonight was ask for your consideration in adopting an adaptation plan, which is kind of going to be a companion document to the Climate Action Plan, and I think we're going to make it an addendum to that plan. And Kate will explain a little bit about why we want to do that, and we also want to consider a new science-based target for our 2050 goal of net zero versus the 80% greenhouse gas reduction that we previously adopted. Many entities, including the state of Pennsylvania, are moving towards the science-based goal, and we'd like to ask for your consideration in doing that. Not tonight, of course, but maybe at the next council meeting we can get it on the agenda for adoption. So I will turn it over to you, Kate.
Katie, just a minute, please. I just got to go back one step on the agenda. If we can, I jumped over that by mistake. The action of the minutes of February 13th. I need a motion for that. Motion?
I move to approve.
Second. Can I have roll call on that, please?
Dr. Ruggles,
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana,
I couldn't understand what was.
No, we didn't do the approval of it.
Oh, okay, all right, aye, yes.
Mayor Panto,
Aye.
Mr. Brown,
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger,
Aye.
and Mr. Pinterbone.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll have the presentation.
Great. Thank you so much for your time this evening. We had a couple of documents that I believe Dave shared with you, including a memo that provides support for this presentation. But I will get started now. So my name is Kate Simmons. I'm the Science Director at Nurture Nature Center. And Maggie Beechtra is also with us, and Lauren Fosbanner with Nurture Nature Center is there in person. So the City of Easton, as you all know, joined the Global Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy back in 2016. And we completed a greenhouse gas inventory in 2017, 2018, and then we've just updated it for 2022. We also completed a climate vulnerability assessment, and the council adopted the emissions reduction target in the spring of 2018. And then we worked to develop a climate action plan that was adopted in October of 2021. And we thank you all for your support in the past. Just a quick reminder about the plan and what the vision and objectives were for that plan. But it's really to make the city a leader in climate actions, looking at making buildings energy efficient, making sure that all the benefits of climate action are equitably distributed. It is seeking to make transportation more pedestrian friendly, bike friendly, reducing car traffic, and just to become a leader in innovative partnerships and sustainability efforts. So as part of the participation in the Global Covenant of Mayors, the city reports to the Carbon Disclosure Project, or CDP. And we've been reporting for the past several years. I'm showing the scores that we've gotten for our reporting over the past several years, and you can see that it's improved. We started with a D, and we have now a B, which is great. And NNC sat down with several of the representatives at CDP to discuss feedback of of the evaluation of what we have presented to them. And it was recommended that we have an adaptation plan, so that's what we're presenting to you tonight. But it also was recommended to have a science-based target, and that is something that would require a change to the already adopted plan, as Dave Hopkins alluded. So really briefly, why an adaptation plan and how is that different from what we already have? So mitigation is reducing the emissions that we are contributing to the problem, and that is really largely what the Climate Action Plan is about, is reducing our emissions, reducing our contribution. Adaptation is recognizing that there are going to be impacts and we need to adjust for them. So this is increased frequent heavy precipitation events, increased risk of flooding, increased extreme heat events. How do we prepare our community to adapt to this changing climate? That's the main difference. Now, there are many examples that hit both of these, and for example, planting more trees can help reduce emissions, acting as a carbon sink, but it can also help reduce flood impacts and mitigate the urban heat island effect. So this is where cities are generally a lot warmer than the surrounding countrysides. But then you can see some other examples here. Building efficiency helps reduce greenhouse gas emissions. And then for adaptation, that can also help reduce energy costs and be able to manage energy uses, especially during heat waves. So these are just a few examples of the difference between mitigation and adaptation. The adaptation plan, which should have been shared with you. If not, we will make sure that you get a copy of it. We're seeking to just have it be an add-on to the existing climate action plan, not a plan separate, but just an addendum. And the plan itself has a little bit of background information, and then there is the adaptation strategies, which include goals, objectives, and actions, and then proposed next steps. And we'll give a few brief examples about those goals, objectives, and actions, but we're not going to dive into detail due to limited time, and just ask that you review that on your own time. So we have several goals as part of the adaptation plan. The first one is to increase resilience to extreme heat and poor air quality. And under that goal, there's two objectives: maintaining low levels of related illness and death, and then minimizing the economic and health impacts. Goal 2 is increasing resilience to flooding and heavy precipitation. And again, it's looking to maintain low levels of harm and damage as part of that. Goal 3 is increasing energy efficiency and energy use from renewable sources. And the objectives for that are to maintain electricity reliability and affordability, and then demonstrate sustainable resource leadership. Goal 4 is focusing on increasing resilience to climate change-related hazards with using natural infrastructure. So this is increasing the land's capacity to protect against hazards. It's preserving existing green space in the city and increasing the green space where possible, and then supporting local food systems. And Goal 5 is focusing on educating and communicating about these efforts. And so that's continuing to support the climate plans and working with partners to increase the education, as well as increasing the community connections. So then within each of those objectives, there are actions. And these are just a couple of examples because there are many actions that are listed. So for instance, action 1.1.1 is to establish a community center or other location in the neighborhoods to serve as a shelter in case of extreme heat or as a hub for information. Action 3.2.1 is leading by example and requiring all of the buildings that the city has and maintains to meet a higher energy efficiency standard. And then for each action, the plan includes information about if it's just adaptation focused or if it does both adaptation and mitigation. It also notes if that action has a corollary in the climate action plan already, and then the types of issues that the action addresses, along with its benefits and the types of action that would be needed to meet that goal. There's also a bit about monitoring. So the climate action plan already has some monitoring description in there, and we'll be talking a bit about one of the monitoring updates in really shortly. But for the adaptation plan, monitoring, of course, will need to be on an ongoing basis, but the actual formalized reports are suggested to be every 3 years, and then actually revisiting, reviewing, and updating the plan itself every 5 years. And it is thought that the city should take the lead to assign tasks to outside entities as appropriate. So as I mentioned, monitoring and updating are a key part of all of this climate action. The Nurture Nature Center took an update to the 2020, we updated our greenhouse gas inventory for 2022 for the city. And in doing that, we had to slightly change some of the methodology so that we were able to represent the best estimate of the greenhouse gas emissions as we could. So that required us to slightly adjust the previous inventory in 2018 so that it would be comparable to 2022. And so you're seeing that here. It's a really slight difference of, just about 1,000 MT of carbon dioxide equivalent. And it's really, there's not that much difference in terms of the percentages among the different categories. And then if we are to compare 2022 emissions to 2018, you can see that overall we've had a decrease of about 10%. This is a change of about 29,000 megatons of carbon dioxide equivalent. And so you can see in this plot where the differences lie. Both we're having decrease in transportation, but largely decreases in residential and commercial energy. Just to note the sources for this inventory, we got the data from MetEd for electricity, UGI for gas, and all of these are data for the whole city that is broken down by residential, commercial, and industrial. We got the estimates of vehicle miles traveled through PennDOT, the waste information through the PADP, and we scaled it based on Easton's population, and then the water and wastewater from the city of Easton and the Water Authority. So overall, to show you the changes, this is a chart that shows that there is about 22% decrease in commercial energy use between 2018 and 2022, about 9% in transportation, 4% in residential energy, and slight increases in the solid waste and wastewater. And then at the bottom, you can see we have additional context there. Over the same time period, we had increasing population. So the 2018 population estimate was 27,100, and in 2022, it's 28,883. And also the housing units have increased from 10,933 to 11,486. This is showing the residential electricity and natural gas differences, so just breaking it out a little bit more there. And we will provide the slide deck for your review afterwards as well. And then this is in detail the transportation sources. So you can see there was an increase in light-duty vehicles that have diesel, but decreases across the board in all other categories of vehicles. And then the solid waste increased slightly, as did the water and wastewater contributions to the emissions. So given all that, we are asking the council, as Dave mentioned, we're asking the council to approve adding the adaptation plan to the climate action plan. And we're also asking the council to consider revising our emissions reduction target to net zero. And this is currently at 80% by 2050, so we're asking for it to be net zero by 2050. And the reason for this is that it's the science-based target, and it's the one that CDP and Global Covenant strongly encourage us to use. We can't increase our score from B to A unless we have a science-based target. Bethlehem has adopted a net zero by 2040 goal. And then for those who are asking, what does net zero mean? Net zero essentially means to reduce the emissions as much as possible. And then there's always going to be a gap because we can't get to zero emissions in the way things are. So it's reabsorbing those remaining emissions either through carbon credits or other approaches. And so there are many ways that we could fill that gap in the future, and some will involve costs, but others might not, and some might actually involve some savings. So this space is definitely evolving, both funding and grants that are available and what technologies exist are rapidly progressing. And so it's very difficult for us to estimate specific costs of what those carbon credits would be or how much we would actually need to purchase in order to get to net zero. So that's not feasible at this time, but it's definitely something to think about and encourage as a goal. And then a little bit more about the science-based targets. They're in line with the goals that were outlined in the Paris Agreement, and it's with the intent of that is to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees above pre-industrial levels. There's many other cities that have science-based net zero policies. Just a few are listed there. And then just wanting to point out the Yale program on climate change communication does regular country-wide surveys of the general public to understand what they feel about climate change. And this is showing that the majority of adults in the ABE metro area, 55%, believe that local officials should do more to address global warming, and an even higher percent, about 74 to 78%, support policies that would reduce carbon emissions. So we feel there's definitely a lot of interest from the general population in making changes that support our climate action. And that is it. We were happy to take questions at this time.
Any questions from council?
Yes. I just got a question on, you're giving the data on total reductions. Why is that not normalized by population? It seems like, you know, if I'm a city and you saw that the Easton has gone up in population since 2018, and yet we've gone down in all of those categories, and to get a better feeling for how much we've gone down, I think it'd be better to normalize that with population.
So the data in the inventory is the actual data that is provided by the utility. I think you might be suggesting that you would like to see numbers that are based on like a per capita type metric.
No, I'm just saying take the data that you have on energy usage, for example, and divide it by the population, because if you have another 1,000 people here, you're going to have more energy use. And so if you divide it by population, you see in the energy use category, let's say we went down by 7 points. Well, if we normalize it by population, we may have gone down by 9 or 10 points.
Okay, thank you for that suggestion.
Okay, Mr. Penamo.
Yes. Kate, over the last 6 months, I've been working on a transportation plan, mass transportation for the city to help our residents get around quicker, lower our emissions, and help with some of the traffic and parking. I've met with the Transportation Committee in Harrisburg, Lafayette, and some other places. I'd like to connect with you when you get back so we can discuss that and maybe merge that in.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Any other questions for Kate? Seeing none, thank you so much, Kate, for that report.
He can't ask questions.
Well, I normally come here.
Yeah,
Please name.
Well, hold on, Councilman, if you don't mind. It's not public comment time. You
No.
can't just ask questions.
No, that's from council members, I said. All right, there. Public comments we're on right now. So at this time on the agenda, we'll move to public comments on agenda items only. Yeah, the presentation is yes. Name, please, and address for the record.
Thank you.
You have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to speak over there, Mr. Rabbits, or into a microphone.
Okay, here's a question. How are you factoring in the other 22% of the people who don't support your goals or our goals? What are we going to do if they spend their money on, non-efficient fuels and non-refundable fuels or whatever? What's your plan for that group? You still there? I don't
She
think
may not have heard you. If you don't speak right into the mic, she may not have heard you.
Well, it's not only that, they may have left because it was a presentation.
It's over.
She's on there. She's still there.
She's still there.
Okay, Kate, I'm sorry you didn't hear me. What are you doing about the 22% that aren't included in the 78% that support your goals? How do you factor that into the formula? You hear me?
So those are general numbers for the whole ABE area. So it's hard to say, like in Easton, there's 22% of people who don't like Kate because she goes around saying we should take climate action. But I think that some of that too is a lot about education and getting people aware of the issues and what we can do. And that a lot of these actions actually have benefits beyond just the climate. There's economic advantages, there's public health benefits, there's just so much additional that can happen that we want to really be focusing on the broader picture and not just this is gonna, cost me money, because there are energy savings, there's economic savings, there's lots of additional benefits. And so one thing I should mention is that the Nurture Nature Center recently got funding, federal funding, to support doing outreach and education about Easton's climate action plan. So we've just started that initiative, and Lauren, who's there in person, is a big help and lead in making those connections. And we will continue to try to spread the word and educate and get people to understand that this is an issue that affects our whole community, and it's an issue that requires our whole community to come together and take action.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, at this time, there's public comments on agenda items only.
On
Can
the
you-
presentation as well,
Please spell your first and last name
Ian Kindle, IANKINDLE,
and the municipality where you live.
Easton, Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
I'm also the chair of Easton's Environmental Advisory Council. So I'd like to strongly advocate for both the adoption of the climate adaptation plan that we just heard about, as well as the net zero emissions target for Easton. I think we can all see that we have a changing climate, and that alongside that, we're seeing increased resource depletion, negative weather effects based on the direct impacts of these situations, which are and going to continue to impact our environment and our quality of life. So investing in renewable energy, energy efficiency, and sustainable infrastructure is going to offer us not only environmental benefits, but it's also going to present significant financial opportunities for our city. Embracing these clean technologies can attract green investments, spur job creation, foster innovation, and stimulate local growth. I think that by adopting some of these targets, we're going to set ourselves aside as a city that's really taking this seriously, and that is going to directly impact grants we can apply for and efforts we can take in order to fund these changes that we need to take into effect. So we've all seen recent experiences in our community, summer days when we couldn't go outdoors because of wildfire smoke from Canada, and all of this really highlights the need for us to build resilience. And that's what this adaptation plan would do, is build the resilience of our city. So by transitioning to these cleaner energy sources, reducing pollution levels, we can greatly enhance public health outcomes and try to downgrade some of the negative impacts respiratory illnesses, reducing strain on our healthcare systems, etc. A net zero target might be a little scary because of the changes it would take, but it does demonstrate our city's commitment to environmental stewardship and sustainability. So by taking these proactive measures, we wouldn't only be preserving these natural resources and preserving our ecosystems, but also enhancing our overall quality of life for now and for current and future generations. There's a couple more things we should think about. Tangible returns on investment that cities realize by embracing these net zero targets, such as cost savings. As we green our energy systems, it costs less to heat, cool, and power all of our electronic devices that we rely on. Economic growth, attracting green investments, grants, and new technologies can stimulate economic growth and enhance competitive, attracting green businesses and other corporations that are interested in working in a city where we're taking these issues seriously. We're going to improve the public health of our citizens. So decreasing air and water pollution by reducing these emissions is really going to help everyone's health that lives within city limits and beyond. And then enhancing resilience is also going to help keep our residents safe during adverse weather impacts and throughout any other recurring negative impacts of climate disruption. We're not alone in this. As of 2022, 252 cities have set net zero targets. Setting this kind of target isn't binding on us, but it does show that we are leaders and bringing opportunities for investment in our cities. So there are cities who have adopted to inset rather than offset emissions that they can't reduce. So they're finding carbon ways to sink carbon in the city, like planting more trees, restoring wetlands, which we have plenty of throughout our riverways here, and reassessing retirement funds and other things that could help lead the way. Oxford, UK is one example, another small college city that has done some of these changes. So grants, economic development opportunities, and all of the funding to do these things is only going to increase from here as the federal government and others get involved in making this happen. So I think that making this move now will help us to be at the forefront of acquiring these sorts of positive benefits to our city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ian.
Are there any others who would like to speak on agenda items only? You have to come to the podium. Yes.
Yes.
It's not on your agenda?
No, the backside of this one, unless I was supposed to grab two papers, this one doesn't have the same that the online has, which has the new business for the resolution.
It should be in the back.
Must
Mine
not
does not have
must not have a
backside.
bad copy.
I got a bad copy. Okie doke.
Name and address, please, and you have 5 minutes.
Caitlin Hart, 730 High Street, Easton. I am a resident of Easton and a mother of 2. I was preparing to give birth at Anderson campus when I read about women who were undergoing C-sections without anesthesia. I have been able to hold my newborn, while others have had to place white sheets over theirs. Born malnourished, with mothers doubly so, all the desperation in the world cannot fill an empty stomach. And 80% of the world's population experiencing famine conditions is in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, we are offering aircrafts to the nation blocking their food at the border. It is almost tax season again, and we are told that we do not have money to pay for health care for our sick, or housing for our homeless, or teachers for our school children, but we reached deep into the past the lint in our country's pockets and pulled out ammunition. Scrounged under the couch cushion for missiles, and recently our federal government has found an extra $14 billion of military aid for a nation waging a war where 2/3 of the casualties have been women and children. This money does not come from thin air. A portion of my paycheck goes to pay for the bullet lodged in civilian bodies. Do not think that this issue does not have anything to do with us. Our administration can only get away with aiding an atrocity because it believes it has enough backing from its states. Our states are unmoved so long as they believe their cities are content, and we are those cities, and we are not content. This council needs to pass a ceasefire resolution and put pressure on our state representatives to do the same. And in the meantime, council members, I urge you to look at international sources such as the United Nations and the World Health Organization for your information, not only Western media, because we know that we have been lied to before. Our government has a history of spearheading atrocities and releasing the truth of them years later. We know that we have carpet-bombed innocents in Cambodia without telling our constituents, that we participated in political executions in Argentina only to apologize a few years ago. We know now that Iraq did not have weapons of mass destruction when we convinced our populace that we needed to invade to disarm them. A few months ago, Israeli officials insisted that they would not be callous enough to bomb a hospital. Now the World Health Organization shows that there are no fully functioning hospitals left in all of Gaza. History does not repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. Now nearly every major nation in the world has called for a ceasefire, and 3 times the U.S. has opposed it. After all, when 80% of Israel's weapon imports come from the United States, peace just isn't that profitable. This administration is banking on your apathy so they can continue to fund an ethnic cleansing. The proposed general peace resolution plays into their goal, keeping us complacent and inactionable. Not all 45 armed conflicts around the world are equally relevant to this council, because they are not all funded by reaching into our pockets. Between Allentown, Bethlehem, and the city of Easton, more than $3 million annually is used to arm Israel, and that's on a normal year, when the federal government sends only a little less than $4 billion to Israel for military aid. But it doesn't take into account the additional $14 billion from this year. Now, if the council would like to pass both the general peace resolution in addition to a ceasefire resolution, that would be acceptable. But passing the resolution on all 45 armed conflicts in the world without passing a ceasefire resolution would be the height of hypocrisy. The council resolves to, quote, work tirelessly toward the resolution of conflict, but when the opportunity is provided, would be proposing instead to work around it. To pass a peace resolution without calling for ceasefire resolution would be lip service, and do not think your constituents are too dumb to notice. Every day that Israel is allowed to corral and kill Palestinian civilians with impunity, they are denied peace. Every day that Israel blocks aid in the form of food, medicine, water, and fuel, the people of Gaza are denied peace. And every day that the city of Easton stands down and refuses to make demands of our state representatives, allowing money to flow from our pockets into Israel's arsenal, we are all denied peace. So, council members, if you believe in your peace resolution at all, you will know that you must call for a ceasefire. Your city is waiting. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Mark Rosenzweig,
How do I spell your last name?
Rosenzweig. I'm a resident of Easton,
Thank you.
Governor Wolf Building, downtown.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. That was a beautiful and comprehensive and passionate presentation that we just heard, and I'm not going to go over the same ground. I'm speaking in favor of the ceasefire resolution, and I want to commend Mrs. Sultana for bringing this to the attention of the council and the city of Easton. We can't ignore this conflict, this genocide in process. It's being televised. So anybody who doesn't feel passionately about this hasn't been watching the TV news at all. We're all familiar with the exterminationist operation that's going on in the Gaza Strip and its human toll. Why is this within, what I really want to speak to today is why this is within the scope of the City Council. First of all, I want to note that there are at least 70 cities which have already passed ceasefire resolutions. They're doing so is based on a number of grounds. First of all, there's the humanitarian argument, the humanitarian concerns. This ongoing conflict has resulted in significant loss of life and suffering, as we know, particularly in Gaza itself. Tens of thousands, almost 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, including civilians, the elderly, children. The infrastructure has been destroyed. City after city has been leveled. Cities like ours can advocate for a ceasefire because we want to prevent further loss of innocent lives and alleviate humanitarian concerns in other cities, in other places in the world, in this case, in Gaza. Then there's the argument on the basis of international diplomacy. Cities can play a role in promoting international diplomacy by urging the government to take a stance. A collective voice from the cities can signal the importance of peace and encourage diplomatic efforts to find a resolution. Thirdly, global responsibility. As part of a global community, our city, along with other cities, has a responsibility to advocate for peace and stability. By taking an official stand, we would demonstrate our commitment to human rights, to justice, and to conflict resolution. Pressure on national leaders is another possible reason why a city would advance this kind of resolution. City resolutions can put pressure on national leaders to prioritize peace negotiations. When cities express their concern, it sends a message that citizens care about the issue and expect action from their elected representatives. The argument from solidarity with affected communities. Cities like ours with diverse populations often include residents with personal connections to the region. As we will see here, when other people speak, this is an issue for many of our city residents who are personally connected to the region in conflict. By supporting a ceasefire, the cities can show solidarity with those who have family members here or cultural ties to Israel and Palestine. Finally, promoting dialogue is another possible reason for doing this. City resolutions can foster dialogue and awareness within local communities. They provide a platform for education, for discussion, for engagement on complex geopolitical issues. Cities don't have direct authority over foreign policy, but their collective voices can influence national policy decisions. Elected officials pay attention to the concerns of their constituents, including those expressed by city councils. There's the question also of the young people and the future generations. Young people in the cities, like in our city, are often passionate about global issues. By advocating for peace, cities engage youth and encourage their active participation in shaping a more peaceful world. And finally, city resolutions raise public awareness about the conflict, encouraging citizens to learn more and engage in informed discussions. This awareness will lead to broader advocacy efforts and informed voting decisions. These are the reasons that I advance for why it is completely within the scope of the City Council of the City of Easton to take up this matter and to take a position on the ceasefire in Gaza. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
I'm Jason Moore, resident of Easton, Northampton Street, live here downtown. I'm here to support the ceasefire resolution as well, brought forward by Councilperson Sultana here. So most people here probably already heard, last Sunday, a young man, active duty Air Force officer, committed an extreme act of protest.
Can you speak into the microphone?
An extreme act of protest in front of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. His name was Aaron Bushnell. And I've got a photo of him right here. So that's him before he lit himself on fire, right? I don't want to spend too much time talking about him or what he did, but I do want to mention some words that he said before he committed that act, which are, many of us like to ask ourselves, what would I do if I was alive during slavery or the Jim Crow South or apartheid? What would I do if my country was committing genocide? The answer is you're doing it right now. People have made similar statements like that before, and normally I think it's kind of cliche to say something like that, right? But when the words are coming from someone who did what he did, it's kind of hard to ignore, right? Aaron did something. You might all think it's extreme, you might not agree with it, but he did something. And over the past 5 months, the world's been watching the horror show happening in Gaza, and that's one that I personally consider to be an intentional genocide carried out by the apartheid Israeli state against the Palestinian people. And whether or not you want to use the word genocide, if you're honest with yourself, the actions that Israel has taken over these past 5 months, actions that our president said were over the top, cannot be described as right or just unless you think that might alone is what determines what is just. And if you do, then I pity you. I've been watching it too, along with the rest of the world, and I've been watching it every day, thinking about it every day, talking with my loved ones about it every day. But so far, I haven't done much about it, and I'm ashamed of that. So, right here, I have a stack of papers. You know, it's like about 100 pages. This was published about 1 month ago today, okay? This is a list of approximately half of the names and ages of children killed in Gaza over the past 5 months. That was 1 month ago today, and it was only half at that point. And the ages range from less than a year old up to 17. So I'm going to leave this up here. If anyone else that speaks wants to read off a few of the names, they can do that. And I wanted to kind of end with a question. Well, actually, before that, I did, so I got a couple minutes here. I wanted to discuss why it's relevant to the council. The last speaker mentioned a few things. And, you know, I think it's important to consider the fact that this venue is the most direct form of democracy that people of this city have, okay? And when we're spurred to do something, this is where we can go, right? We can call our senators, they don't call us back. You know, we can email y'all, you probably don't email us back either, but we can stand here in front of you and you can talk to you about it. And I want you to look, you know, before I end, and look at the young people that are here today, right? How often do you guys see this many young people in this room? I doubt it's very often, right? And you have a choice of listening to them and engaging with them or ignoring them. And if you ignore them, then you're silencing them. So that's just a thing that you have to live with if that's what you decide to do. So I'll end with just rest in power, Aaron Bushnell, and free Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you. One moment, please. Can you spell your first and last name, please?
Kaylee Smith, Kayleysmith, 730 High Street, Easton, PA, 18042.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. I've lived in the Lehigh Valley for 11 years, and for this entire time, the city of Easton has been close to my heart. Cornerstone Evangelical Church was a second home for my family after first moving here, and it is there that I first started volunteering and working in childcare. Those who are close to me know that my life is full of relationships with children. I'm an older sister to 5 siblings, aged 6 months to 17 years, and I work as a childcare provider. I spend a large amount of my time playing with children, making sure they are fed, that they can rest, and ensuring that they both feel and are safe. I love my work, but since October 8th, when spending time with my family or the families that I work with, I am reminded of what the IDF has been doing to the children of Gaza. Enabled by U.S. tax dollars, the IDF has murdered over 12,500 children in Gaza, injured 18,000, and orphaned 19,000. In addition to this, Israel has arrested and detained 880 minors just this year. Minors detained by the IDF are held without trial, and in captivity, there are reports of sexual and physical abuse. In addition to this, John Hopkins predicts that 60,000 more Palestinians will be starved to death by the state of Israel within the next several weeks, as Israel has prevented their access to food and water. When I interact with the children in my life, I think of the children of Gaza and how each and every one of them is just as precious and deserving of life as the children who live in the city of Easton. And while I work with children, I'm disgusted to know that my tax dollars from this work go towards destroying children's families, dreams, and bodies overseas. I can assure that all people in this room speaking out for Palestine care deeply for those who suffer in over 45 armed conflicts happening worldwide. But what sets the children in Gaza and Easton apart is that we in this room hold the power to end the fear, hunger, and poverty that they experience. The United States has been funding and enabling the actions of the IDF in Gaza, even going so far as to oppose the vast majority of the United Nations trying to intervene. The United States does this at the expense of the children in the city of Easton, because our tax dollars are sent to Israel when they could instead fund the future of the children in the city. Our country's actions towards Israel is a local issue because the ability to end hunger, poverty, and violence in Easton is within those taxpayer dollars. It would be foolish and disingenuous to claim to care about armed conflicts worldwide while not putting a stop to the one that we ourselves are responsible for. It would be ridiculous to claim to serve the city of Easton without calling for a ceasefire and an end to all aid to Israel. Do better for your own community, call for a ceasefire, and divest from Israel now.
Thank you. One moment. Please spell your first and last name.
First name is my first name is Chris, C-H-R-I-S. Last name is Phillips, P-H-I-L-L-I-P-S. I'm a Southside resident.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
I'm a lifetime resident of Easton.
Talk into the microphone a little bit.
I am a lifetime resident of Easton. I am here on probably a different perspective. I absolutely commend you for what you're here for, but I'm looking at it in a different aspect. I believe that it's wonderful that we are looking to request ceasefire. But as a lifetime resident, I think it's commendable that everybody wants the same thing. As being a resident of Easton, I wish that we would fill the room for local stuff. I think that, with we putting people into these seats and supporting people to support what we as residents are doing in the city is something that we need to focus on, as far as, bringing this stuff all to the table and seeing that members sometimes are focusing on bigger things is frustrating to me as a resident. And that is what brought me here, because I support the fact that everybody is here and fighting for this cause. Hey, I don't want to turn on the news and see country struggling either, but me as a resident is frustrated that, we see council members that I'm a resident of Southside, and with seeing the council members that we vote in here not fighting for me as a resident is frustrating. And to see all these people show up here and not doing the same thing locally is frustrating to me. There's things that we've fought for in Southside that you're pulling all of these, Councilman Sultana, Councilwoman, it's commendable what you fighting for this, but it's frustrating to me that there's multiple things that we've presented as Southside residents that, you have not seemed to be there for us since you've been put in your seat by us as the voters for Southside. And it's frustrating. I mean, I commend you for what you're doing, but it's frustrating. Multiple causes that have come up in Southside particular. And I just find that to be frustrating. The smoke shop on Berwick Street, the vape shop on St. John Street, you know, the condominium on Berwick Street. Those are locally affecting me. We all want peace in the world. I don't want to see babies dying, women dying. Locally, if us making this ceasefire would make a difference, I think everybody wants that to happen. But in realization, I need to make change within my city, and we want people that are going to be here that's going to affect me locally. And that's what's making a difference for me. And I have respect for everyone that's here. But that's what's important to me as a citizen of Easton. That's what is important for me as living here, paying taxes, and coming out of my pocket directly. And it doesn't mean that I don't care about people that are losing their lives. I cry every night too, seeing all of this stuff happening on the news. And I wish I could be a bigger voice for all of that. Unfortunately, you know, what's impacting me within the city and the changes that are happening directly in this city, and seeing that the people that I'm voting into office with promises that I'm being given by putting you in office that aren't happening, that's more frustrating to me. So, I mean, it's not that I'm against what everybody is here for. I think that we all really have to consider when we put people in office, you have to start from the bottom in order to make changes at the top. And that's what's really going to make a difference.
Just a quick question. Are you in favor of the resolution, or you are not in favor of the resolution?
I am in favor of
Okay,
it.
you are in
If
favor of
it's
the
really
resolution.
going to make a difference, but like I said, it's not. If my voice and everyone's voice in this room is really going to make a difference, absolutely. But like I said, just us coming here, if we don't all continue to make a difference within the city, this is not going to change.
This is city. This is the city.
It's
You
not
know that
going to.
they are from this city. They are residents of the city.
This
right?
is not going to make a difference if one thing changes. If you do one thing, like I said, we've brought 3 things to the table that you've been put in a seat from our residents. You came and made promises as a South Side representative to do as for South Side residents to make changes, and did not do anything for us. Nothing.
So let me tell you 2 things. First of all,
So
I
now
am.
you are
I'm
now
sorry.
fighting for this.
Excuse me.
Your time is
Sorry.
up. And I don't hold you. Excuse me.
I am fighting for everybody.
You
Okay?
have not.
As much as your voice matters, their voices matters. Okay, they are.
I
they're
respect that.
And you just said that everything starts from the bottom up. So yes, this is what we are going to do. We are going to talk about this resolution, and it's not like we are telling Israel to stop this. No, we are sending this resolution
I'm
to
gonna
call
ask
on
at this
Congresswoman Susan Wild.
Excuse me.
I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm going to ask that we don't have this dialogue. This time is for the community to speak. And Chris, I agree. Some of the things you have said tonight, but we're going to move forward and let others speak. If you look
Okay.
behind, you have a line.
Thank you so much.
So I'm gonna finish what I was saying.
Are
We
you-
have been working, so everything starts from the bottom. Okay, so, and I have been representing my community diligently.
Not in
And maybe,
Southside.
maybe you wanna go to my website and see. I post every single resolution and bill and legislation that I propose. You are talking about something that
Not in
goes to the
Southside.
zoning board. So maybe you
Not
want to
in
see the
Southside.
difference. But thank you. I truly appreciate that you coming out
in Southside.
and spoke in favor of my resolution. Appreciate that.
Not in Southside.
Please feel free to come forward. And if you got to pull that mic down a little bit for yourself, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm pretty short, so I'm going to do that.
I'm with you.
Please spell your first and last name.
Ari, Ari, Ismail, Ismail.
and my address is Lafayette College.
Thank you.
And
And you have 5 minutes.
thank you. I just want to say thank you so much for coming up and voicing the concerns, especially on a local level, because I agree. Money should be spent locally, especially tax money. And I understand that I'm a student and that I just came into this community, but I was at the seed swap on Sunday, and it was like the best experience ever. I got to meet so many incredible people. I fell in love with Easton all over again, and it really made me, proud to be attending college here. And also, I would like, never thought I'd say this, like, I was born in New York City. Like, I never thought I'd say that I kind of want to stay here. But because of that, that's why I need this city to, call for a ceasefire, because, sorry, not super prepared, but this city is full of beautiful people who I've seen work to lift each other up. They've pulled each other up by the bootstraps. They've worked to, make co-ops for each other. They've created spaces where they can heal together. And I think that time and money needs to be spent on that instead of the $367,656 that go to Israel from Easton, specifically. They could be given to projects such as Easton's Climate Action Plan. They could be given to working, to fix the South Side, to work to better these beautiful communities that, I've fallen in love with. The reason Easton specifically needs to call for a ceasefire is because cities around it are doing it. Bethlehem, I was there. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know local democracy and local government had such power, but I went and I saw people band together and call for an end to this violence. And I'm going to use the word genocide and not war, because war insinuates that there are two sides and that there's fighting back. You don't see those infants fighting back. I work with a refugee family locally, and they have beautiful children who I absolutely adore. And I work very closely with the family. I spend a lot of time with them. And I was playing with one of the boys the other day, and I was just watching him laugh, and I turned away and I looked back, and I imagined him covered in rubble. I imagined his face covered in soot. I imagined around me destruction everywhere, because that's what children in Gaza are facing. And that was a really scary experience, because, again, I've mentioned that I came here from a country that was in the midst of a civil war, and a lot of people here have had experiences like that. Sorry, I don't really have a lot of jointed thoughts, but I appreciate so much that you all are passionate and want to call for peace, but a general call for peace is not enough, because if you can't call for peace in one place, how can you call for peace everywhere? So it won't make this specific Israeli violence against Palestinians funded by the U.S., again, that number, I'm going to read it out again, which is $367,656 from Easton specifically, that fund Israel in their bombing of Palestine. So we appreciate your call for peace, but again, what's a call for peace everywhere going to do? What do you call it? We need peace everywhere. But again, if you can't call for peace in one specific place, how can you claim to call for peace everywhere? So again, free Palestine, please call for a ceasefire. We wouldn't, if we didn't care, we wouldn't be keep showing up and showing up and showing up. Like, I could be doing my papers right now that are due. I'm kind of failing my classes right now, but I'm here because I care so much, and we all care. And we need you to care too. So please, divest, call for a ceasefire, free Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you. One moment, please. Please spell your first and last name.
Logan, Logan, Shire, Scheier.
And what municipality do you live in?
I'm a resident of Lehighton,
Thank
Pennsylvania.
you. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Can you move the mic up so you can speak in?
Is
you
this
can move
better?
it up.
You can
Just
move it up?
pull Yeah, there
All
you
right.
go.
Thank you.
Because it's being broadcast.
Gotcha. Thank you. So as I said, I'm a resident of Lehighton, Pennsylvania, and you may be wondering why I'm down here in Easton. I drove over an hour away to come here tonight to speak. The reason being that I'm not speaking in Lehighton or the cities surrounding me is that my cities are not a safe place for discussion like this. The last time there was a social justice event in my city, which was 3 years ago, people showed up with Confederate flags. They called people slurs. They spit on them. People were assaulted, and they were driven out of our town. And so it is not a safe place to speak, but ever since organizing for the last couple months in the Lehigh Valley, I have been shown a great amount of love from the people, many of them in this room here with me today. And so that is why I'm here. These people have shown me a great deal of love. A woman came up here earlier, sitting over there, and she claimed that this is not a local issue, and I thank you for coming to speak. And I think that you should come to speak, and I press you to continue to come because we need everyone with us. We need everyone with us at the table. I am coming here today to support the ceasefire resolution that's going to be introduced by Councilwoman Sultana, and I thank you for your leadership on the issue. You said that this wasn't a local issue, but it is. It's a local issue because our taxpayer dollars are being sent to a genocidal government that has killed 30,000 civilians in 4 months. This is a local issue because Easton and other surrounding cities are populated by residents of affected people. There are Palestinians, there are Arabs, there are Muslims. Some of them are in this room with us right now. There are people, the one woman I'm sitting next to, her name is Raya. Her family is Palestinian, and they were victims of Israeli state terrorism, and that's why her and her family are here today. That is the only reason they are here. It's because they were pushed out of their homelands. This is what we are dealing with. This is a local issue because it affects the people locally. There are people here who are directly affected by it, and all of us are because our taxpayer dollars that we work hard to earn are again going to be sent to kill people. It is also now a local issue because as I was reading earlier in the news, that the mayor of this city received a thank you letter from an Israeli official thanking him for supporting Israel and for standing by them. He said that this city did not take a stance on the war, and yet he is receiving thank you letters from Israeli officials who are complicit, as the International Court of Justice has issued, in genocide, ethnic cleansing, and occupation. This is why it is a local issue. Our taxpayer dollars are funding this genocide because we have residents here who are directly affected via their families and via where they're from, and because now the city of Easton has been drug into it because your mayor has been thanked by Israeli officials. So I thank you for giving me this platform to speak tonight. And I also saw that there's a resolution that was presented that may be voted on tonight about other conflicts in the world. And I would support that resolution as long as it is passed alongside the ceasefire resolution. I do not think you can pass the resolution about 45 conflicts without passing the ceasefire resolution because, as someone who came up here said earlier, it would be hypocritical, and also because we are here in probably a dozen or 2 dozen demanding that you pass the ceasefire resolution. We have been doing it for the past 4 months. My first ever protest in Lehigh Valley was here outside of this building in November, where 1,000 of us came outside and demanded that you pass the ceasefire resolution 4 months ago, and it still hasn't happened. We marched down this road and we went to that statue right there, and we demanded that you pass a ceasefire resolution, and you haven't. I hope that you are as receptive as the people of Easton have been, as the people of Allentown have been, as the world has been. The City Council of Bethlehem has stated that they will likely introduce the ceasefire resolution, and not only 1 or 2, but the overwhelming majority of the council said that they would vote in the affirmative, that they would support a ceasefire resolution. We went to Allentown, and they spoke positively on it as well, but they weren't as positive as Bethlehem. So, and I'd also like to talk to you directly as council members. A member of council of Allentown spoke to me privately along with some other people and told us that they were threatened by not individuals but organizations within the Lehigh Valley, that if they came out in public support of a ceasefire resolution, that they would lose their jobs. So we know what you're up against. It's the same thing that we're up against. The threats, the harassment. We're asking you to stand with us. We're asking you to pass a ceasefire resolution. Once you do that, we don't have to come here and bother you anymore. But until you do, we are going to come to every meeting and we are going to demand that you pass a ceasefire resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Please spell your first and last name.
Avon Lancaster, Avenlancaster.
And what municipality do you live in?
Easton.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
I'm coming here also in support of the ceasefire resolution, and I would just like to pose all of you the question, why are you opposed to the language of a ceasefire? What in you is morally against asking for the death of civilians to end? Using the weaker language of a peace resolution functions as abandoning those who are dying as we speak. By not directly calling for a ceasefire, you are not putting the pressure on national government to end the harm that is being done to Palestinians. I am morally opposed to this genocide, to your silence, and to the complacency that the council is demonstrating in this ethnic cleansing. I'm a college student at Lafayette. All 12 of the universities located in the Gaza Strip have been bombed and destroyed. Over 4,000 Palestinian college students have been killed as of January 16th, and that number is from last month. So we have no idea how many more college students have been killed. That 4,000 number is about double the student population of Lafayette. That is every student at Lafayette twice over. That is me dying twice. I know you would each be outraged if a Lafayette student was killed, let alone double that number. Why do Palestinian lives matter less than ours? I urge you to look inside yourselves and truly consider this ceasefire. Ask yourselves why you are opposed to it, and why, as people die of malnourishment and Israeli-given wounds as we speak in Gaza, you choose to stay silent. Please use your voices now and truly, truly ask yourselves, why are you morally opposed to this? Thank you.
Thank you. One moment, please. Please spell your first and last name.
My name is Azalea Danes, Azaleadanes.
And what municipality do you reside in?
Easton, Pennsylvania.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. This is going to be quick. I'm not going to appeal here today to, as my many friends have done a fantastic job doing today, to your empathy, to your humanity, but rather to your job security. So as of today, very excitingly, the fantastic organizers in Michigan in the past 3 weeks have managed to corral 100,000 votes in support of an uncommitted vote in the Michigan primary. Those votes stand as a protest vote for Palestine and against the current folks running for office who have not yet called for a humanitarian ceasefire. This demonstrates a widespread commitment in Michigan, just like there is here, as you can see from our continued commitment to showing up, and as my friend previously said, continuing to bother you, to calling for a humanitarian ceasefire and protecting the lives of all of the poor, innocent souls who have had their lives and their livelihoods, their dreams, and their families destroyed in Gaza. Today, the New York Times also reported, I'm a social scientist, so I'm going to use the facts, right, that voters in purple states, just like ours, in municipalities like these, especially young voters, generally the most politically organized, the most politically active, the most willing to go above and beyond to spend our time, our money, and our valuable strength and youth and resources in order to organize for, campaigns like these that enable 110,000 people to be organized in 3 weeks to vote uncommitted. They reported that overwhelmingly young voters and people of color support humanitarian ceasefires. We, the youth, like many of us in this room, and many, many more that are not in this room, that are not here because they have work, prior commitments, school, we all got stuff going on. We are watching very, very closely where our elected officials stand. Amidst the immense humanitarian atrocities, of which I will not repeat because I am sure that you are listening to my friends, 30,000 dead, innocent Palestinians, a forced famine that is killing children that the city of Easton, with its own dollars, are complicit in. We are closely watching today and every day what our elected officials do. We will not forget the council members, just like the voters in Michigan are not forgetting those who are running in the state primary, those who are opposed to a ceasefire, those who are opposed to ending the atrocities against Palestinian lives. And we will not forget the council members who choose apathy or other political commitments over action and over empathy for human lives. Rest assured, the youth, those who are in this room today, and the many, many more who are behind us, we will not forget. We will organize and we will vote you out for your complicity. So, on that note, I urge you all strongly today to vote for a ceasefire. Thank you, Councilwoman Sultana, for your advocacy with this. Free Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you. Please spell your first and last name.
Now I've got to do the reverse. I've got to bring this up a bit. Sorry.
Okay.
Yassine Saleh, Yasseen Saleh. This is still kind of far. Okay, I'll project.
And what municipality do you live in?
Lafayette College.
Easton. Okay. Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. So, I think this is my 4th time, maybe my 5th time. I started to lose count now, actually. Before any of this started happening, I would not say that I ever imagined myself becoming a regular at the City Council of Easton. I'm an engineering major. I'm not a politician, nor do I aspire to be one. But I do have to say something important here, because the point was brought up that one of the speakers had wished that more of us showed up for local efforts. And I think that it was addressed in the sense that this is a local effort, and that point was addressed, actually, I think previously by many speakers. Huge amounts of tax money locally, federally, are going towards not helping us, not helping fix any of these problems, but rather towards killing children, which for me, I guess, is not something that I would want my money to go towards. But that's besides the point. Today, I'm going to try to not be emotional, because I'm working on sustainability, because it seems that we're in this for longer than 1 month, unfortunately, but hopefully not longer than the next month. So, that being said, on that issue, I can promise you that the world today is not the world yesterday, and it's not the world from a month ago. When the world has seen the slaughter, and you see how many people standing up now, none of these people would have stood up before. So many of us probably would have gone about our school lives, and the people who are studying politics and didn't want to become politicians would have. But the many others, I don't think you would have seen the millions worldwide that are now getting involved. And what are they getting involved for? Let's not forget, this is not about Palestine, as you all have written. And I've actually read the counter-resolution, because one should always be prepared. I'm a student, why not? You all understand this is not just about Palestine, but the thing is, we're not here for just talking. We're here because we care about people, and because the compassion has been awakened in the hearts of so many around the world. So when I see a lack of action now, I'm done. I'm getting up. And just for the press, because the press is present here today, it's important to remember that just standing here is a threat to us. This is not something small to just come and stand in front of you. So the past 3 times I've come, my legs are shaking and I'm barely able to speak. Because everybody that stands here today is risking something. You could get doxxed, you could lose future jobs, you could lose your current job, you could lose your job, you could lose your position as a student, or you could just have your life threatened. Point dot. So that's just for the press, not for everybody here present, but just for the press to know that this is actually quite a big deal. That so many people are taking the chance to stand up, taking the risk to stand up for this matter, and I promise you this will not die. Once a heart has been awakened, you cannot just kill it just like that again. And so my hope is that we start to see just governments around the world. My hope is that we start to see that once we address the genocide now, because I cannot promise you that if we wait for another 6 months, there will still be a Palestine, and that is a problem. The endangerment of animals is a large problem that's happening right now, but now we're seeing the endangerment of a whole country. And when we don't move, when literally a country is being endangered, when people are being slaughtered to the point of you see an extinction of a country, that is why I said no more. And that's why so many of us are saying no more. So to your point, thank you for speaking up. Honestly, I went to the Bethlehem City Council and I heard the people speaking up about a local issue. And I said, thank you. And I said, I supported them. And I hope to actually be able to speak up on these issues moving forward. And I do apologize that we haven't spoken till now. But I also apologize that we haven't spoken on the issue of Palestine to the level that we need to be. So no more. We're here and we're speaking. And I see that you're calling for peace, and I know that we've had this conversation. I know that you're all very adamant about your humanity, and I love that. That's fantastic. That was the biggest part of what brought us here today. But it's one thing to have the compassion awakened in your heart, and that's another thing to take the moves. When we risk our lives by being here and speaking, we're doing something. We're risking something. By simply saying, I believe in peace, you don't risk anything. And actually, I haven't really said anything besides I believe in peace and compassion. If anybody listens to my speeches, which are now publicized as has been brought to my attention, those are the points. But I'm not stopping at peace, because we cannot stop at peace. When we stop at peace, we actually kill peace. When we just say we want peace without actually calling for the action that will make peace happen, we're not calling for peace. So I stand here today in front of all of you, as I have stood for the past how many times, and as I hope to continue standing, not just on this issue, but other issues, to say, let's call for actual peace. Let's take the steps to get actual peace. Thank you, council members, as always, and I hope that we can reach an agreement on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Your first and last name, please.
Raya, it's R-A-Y-A. My last name is A-B-D-E-L-A-A-L. I am a Bethlehem resident, but my family does business in Easton.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
So since we've last spoken, I'm sure some of you remember me. I believe last time we presented about 11,000 names. We are up to now 30,000 Palestinians that have been brutally murdered by the Israeli government. I have recently found out that I had family in Gaza that I wasn't aware of because we got separated in the Nakba. One of my grandfather's uncles went down to Gaza. That family has since passed in a bombing. There are only a couple survivors left. When we are asking you all to pass the ceasefire resolution, as many of us have stated, this is a local issue for various reasons. One of them that I'm going to state is when we call for a ceasefire, you're also protecting your residents that are Arab in the city. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but in the past 5 months, 5 Palestinians have been attacked in America. There is growing anti-Muslim sentiment. We've all at some point received death threats for taking a stand here, and our safety is in danger. And when a city says, hey, I'm not going to vote on a ceasefire, it's basically telling your Arab and Muslim constituents that it's okay for America and Israel to kill Arabs, and it's okay for them to continue doing so with our federal tax dollars, which is an issue. It's a big problem. I have also spoken to some of you individually, and you say you support a ceasefire, so I would like for that to be translated on paper. That includes the mayor, who I've spoken to, actually. And he said he supported a ceasefire. So I'm not really sure why this morning I received a message stating that the mayor will vote no on Taiba Sultana's resolution. I understand that some of you have feelings about each other, and I'm asking you to put it to the side because it's not about you guys. It is about your constituents. I'm sorry that you guys have some personal struggles among your work colleagues. I have personal struggles amongst my work colleagues, and I get over it. We're going to keep coming back. I don't care if maybe somebody else wants to propose a ceasefire resolution. If y'all get together, figure it out, talk it out, go to therapy. I'm not really sure what you want to do at this point. Figure it out. But we're going to keep coming back until this is passed. And by the way, we're not over here on WhatsApp being we're just going to all show up from different counties. Some of the stuff is organized by separate people in the city of Easton. So that's all I have to say at this point. Thank you for your time. And hopefully we'll be back for other things. I mean, last time in Allentown City Council, we met a bunch of people that were presenting a resolution to the city of Allentown, and somehow we got involved in it, and now we're going to keep coming back with them. In Bethlehem, I'm hearing a lot about a garage they really care about. I will also keep coming back about that garage because I think it's important for the city of Bethlehem. So we want to be involved. So keep us involved. That is also your job, to keep us motivated as younger folks who want to be involved in politics and want to have a voice in the system. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Please spell your first and last name.
Jack, J-A-C-K, Rosa, R-O-S-A.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you speak into the microphone?
Which microphone?
The black microphone.
My name is Jack Rosa, J-A-C-K, R-O-S-A.
R-O-S-A?
Yes.
And what municipality do you reside?
Forks Township.
Thank you. And you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jack Rosa. I am descended from the Tataino, the indigenous population of the island of Boriken, which you know as Puerto Rico. I'm here to speak about the trauma of genocide, the way it lives in the bones, the way the annihilation of a people and their culture leaves generations hundreds of years later gasping for breath. In fact, you may have heard that my people were genocided into extinction. Much of my culture has been lost to history, which was written by our oppressors. This was intentional then, and it is the goal of the Israel and the U.S. And make no mistake, it is equally the United States as Israel. They literally could not do it without the United States. We are fully complicit. I have lived in Easton and the greater Easton area all my life. It sickens me to my core that this town's budget is and has been funding a genocide in Palestine. There is a long-term homeless encampment down the river that I'm sure everyone is aware of. There is a large homeless population in Easton beyond that camp. How many low-income housing units could be created with the annual Israel aid budget? Where is the humanity? As someone mentioned just days ago, an active U.S. airman, active duty U.S. airman, self-immolated in front of the Israeli embassy in Washington, D.C. after receiving mandatory orders to go to Israel. He did this so that you would all wake up. It is far past time to do the morally upright thing and end the genocide in Palestine. Calling for a ceasefire is literally the least you could do. To the person who is frustrated by the global nature of this protest, I don't know how to tell you should care about other people. There is something to be said about urgency and priorities. Whatever it is you're concerned about in Southside, where I am from, it is not as urgent as children being blown apart by bombs right now, funded in part by Easton's budget. Also, everyone who spoke about divesting mentioned the money could be spent on the city. I'm tired of the cavalier and disingenuous whataboutism. What about Southside? What about local issues? You're muddying the waters when this is a clear-eyed issue. It's cut and dry. Putting an end to the slaughter of innocents is what is required of us all. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Rest in peace to the martyrs. Free Palestine.
Thank you. One moment, please. May I have the spelling of your first and last name?
Thomas Henshen, Thomas-Henschen.
And what municipality do you live in?
I live in Easton. I'm a Lafayette College student.
Thank you. You have 5 minutes.
All right. I'd like to first thank Chris Phillips for coming up here and, talking about issues that affected Easton residents in the community. I think many of us here are from Lafayette College, and I think we all need to be more active in Lafayette community in general. And
if you want my email, you can send me stuff about like issues that Southside is facing, and perhaps we can organize something to show up and support you. Okay, I'll check that out. Show me the link after this. All right. But going on that, I think us getting involved in Easton City Council here is a good first step to getting involved in the community as a whole. And I think we are doing this because this is something, again, that directly affects us. And I want to comment on the peace resolution, which to my eyes looks like it was put there to mock us. It seems to be me that you think us showing up here today are just, bleeding heart hippies who don't understand how the world works. We know how the world works, and we are here to change it because we know how to change it. And we know that starts with you. And that does not start with a vague platitude for peace. That is a cop-out, and that is not what we are here to support. And that is not why we have been turning out here. That is not why the students of Lafayette and people from all the surrounding towns have been turning out to this council for vague platitudes of peace. We have come here for the ceasefire resolution, and we come here every time there is a meeting, and we keep showing up to these meetings. Maybe not every time, I don't know the exact details on this, but we keep showing up to these meetings more than Lafayette College students ever have in the past. We are more involved in the community than Lafayette College students have ever been in these city council meetings, and you are ignoring us, and this peace resolution mocks us. It takes us for as if like, oh, they're all going to graduate. We can just pacify them with vague platitudes again. But we are not a bunch of bleeding heart hippies, just wishing that the world was a more peaceful place. I mean, we all do wish that the world was a more peaceful place, but more than that, we are a political movement. And we are coming here to tell you that we are a political movement with political power, and political power that grows every day. How will history remember you? Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there anyone else that would like to speak at this time? Seeing none, we're going to move on the agenda. Consent agenda, please.
We have a bill amending language in Chapter 475.13 titled Definitions. We have a bill amending language in Chapter 515.16, Refilling Excavations. A bill approving the change in direction of Church Street between 7th and 8th. A bill approving change in direction of Wood Avenue between Northampton Street and 8th Street. A resolution approving a COA for 104-106 North 4th Street. A resolution for Pocket Parks grant closeout.
Interesting.
Okay. A resolution approving the agreement with Traffic Planning and Design for $35,332. And a resolution authorizing Director of Public Works to sign electronic PennDOT documents associated with the rehab of the Hugh Park Bridge.
I move the consent agenda.
Moved. I think the mayor second.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
Aye.
Okay, report received by council. I have nothing. Mayor, do you have anything?
No, I don't have anything, Mr. Councilman.
Thank you.
We did get the fire report done.
Yeah, we got that in there, right. Yep. Okay, moving on. Reports Finance Committee. We did meet yesterday. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there due to death in the family. But we did have a meeting, and Mr. Sinecki took us through year to date and gave us an update on where we're going, and he plans on giving another report very shortly thereafter. Economic Development, Ms. Pinnabone.
Thank you. Last meeting, I updated everyone on the West Ward Pocket Parks. We had a grant of $50,000. We, as of tonight, are now up to $100,000 with another 50 of matching money from our Open Space Fund. I worked with the architect last week to start the drawings for Raspberry Park, Jackson, Bushkill, and 7th Street. So 7th Street will get minor improvements. So we are getting to work on the pocket parks in the West Ward. That's all I have.
Thank you. Planning and Codes, Councilwoman Rose.
Thank you. I attended last week's zoning meeting where I spoke out against the special exception and variance for the smoke shop in our South Side neighborhood. I'd like to thank the zoning board for upholding our zoning laws, and also thank Councilman Pinnabone, Melody Rogers, and Patty Hitzel, who are here tonight from the South Side Neighborhood Association, for joining me at the meeting and speaking out about the issue. I think it had a lot of influence, so thank you. There's an upcoming planning meeting on Wednesday, March 6th at 6:30, and it will be held in City Council chambers here in this room. We also have the Historic Commission meeting coming up on Monday, March 11th at 5 p.m., and the next zoning meeting will be held on March 18th at 6 p.m. I'm also happy to announce that I have joined the board of directors for the Community Action Lehigh Valley and attended my first meeting last week. I look forward to highlighting their programs and helping bring their resources to our residents in our community, which include but are not limited to food access, housing, neighborhood revitalization, and housing counseling. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Public Safety, Dr. Ruggles.
Thank you. We did, for council's information, we did postpone our public advocate that works in the police department. Was supposed to come last night, but because of some absences, we decided to postpone that. She will be attending a future meeting, and I think Lewis is arranging that.
Yes.
Maybe not quite a public safety thing, but I did, along with Councilwoman Sutana, attend the home board meeting for that particular project. It's getting up and getting off the ground, and I'm looking forward to that paying some dividends in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Ruggles. Public Works, Councilman Agnew.
I have no report tonight.
Thank you. Administration, Councilwoman Sultana.
I have no report from the administration, but I do want to talk about our new organization, Home Easton, that Mr. Roger Ruggle just mentioned, that I proudly serve as a vice president on. We actually recently have a retreat where we were able to top-line review of bylaws and organizational structure. Throughout the course of our discussion, a recurring theme was how do we ensure we aim the agency value throughout future programming. We had a discussion centered equity, diversity, and developing a framework to assist those who need affordable housing. While our value statement lists vibrant mixed income neighborhood where everyone is able to find a safe and comfortable home that fits their needs, the reality is we can't meet all needs, so should strive for equal access. We also discussed about in alignment with the city's participation and Third Street Alliance and some other organizations in the Philadelphia Fed program focused on inclusive rental housing. Reinventing our communities, we should be deliberate in addressing systematic racism that has resulted in inequities in access to banking and underbanked segment of our community. In future, we will be focusing on pursuing strategies that result stronger financial future for household who need affordable housing, developing diversity multicultural neighborhood, and then the relationship with City of Easton and RDA. The city administration has offered that the RDA provides structural support to Home Easton with Mike Brett in the acting executive position as we work on launching operations. Legal work, the RDA attorney has drafted a working agreement that we actually received on Friday. Home Easton must retain legal counsel to review the documents. And so, yeah, that's the conclusion. And also, when I discussed the program opportunities, we reviewed the 5 years goal outlined in the business plan development by Hailstone Economics. With some discussion, the group agreed to focus on program opportunities targeting at 3 population for the first year of operation: landlords, homeowners, and general public. So in small group work, board members flashed out opportunities to engage with each population. Results were presented back to the full group for feedbacks. Additional discussion focused on allocating human resources required to launch the plan. The 3 programs are landlord outreach. That means work with landlords to keep rental units attainable. The second one is homeowner outreach. Work with landlords to keep rental units attainable. And then public education. Provide public education opportunities focused on building strong neighborhood and strong financial future for households who need affordable housing. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'm going to ask for solicitor's report.
I have no report, thank you.
And report of the mayor.
I have no report, thank you.
Report of city administrator.
No report.
Moving on, any correspondence? Hearing none.
No correspondence.
Unfinished business? Seeing none. New business.
Okay, we have a resolution calling for a ceasefire.
So introduce.
Here, no second. It is now dropped because of not a second. Next.
We have a resolution advocating for peace.
If you could read that into the record, please.
Yes, I can. Whereas the city of Easton recognizes the inherent value of human life and the fundamental rights of peace and security. There are over 45 armed conflicts worldwide, resulting in widespread suffering, displacement, and loss of life. Whereas armed conflicts and war crimes are an egregious violation of human rights, causing immeasurable harm to individuals, families, and communities. Whereas it is incumbent upon all responsible parties, including governments, international organizations, and civic society, to work tirelessly towards the prevention and resolution of conflicts, and to hold perpetrators of war crimes accountable for their actions. Whereas the City of Easton reaffirms its commitment to promoting dialogue, diplomacy, and peaceful resolution of conflicts, both domestically and internationally. We stand firmly in support of the universal right to protest as a means of advocating for peace and justice. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the City Council of Easton hereby condemns war crimes in the strongest terms possible. Be it further resolved that the City Council expresses solidarity with all those affected by conflict and reaffirms its commitment to supporting efforts aimed at achieving lasting peace and justice. Be it further resolved that the City Council encourages residents of Easton to exercise their right to peaceful protest and to advocate for an end to violence and worldwide conflict.
Thank you very much. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Motion?
Second.
And second. Roll call, please.
I have a discussion. We need to do discussion, right?
Yes.
Just a quick question. If you don't mind asking, who drafted this resolution? Who's the author of this resolution?
All council members, other than yourself, have put their minds and and put it into a resolution form.
So six council members drafted this resolution.
We all agree.
And when was that? Like, who gathered you like at one place?
We didn't gather in one place.
Okay, it was just online or like via email or? Because I wasn't involved. That's why I want to make sure. Like, how come 6 members can sit and draft that resolution?
Councilwoman, if I may, I think it was drafted the same way yours was because nobody was offered to get involved with yours either.
Because so we all work separately, right? So, but this resolution has 6 names on it.
Right.
So this is different now. It's not compared to what I did.
Well, that's
It's compared. This is why. No, I'm just curious. It's just a question.
I got
I'm
you.
curious.
I understand what you're saying, Councilwoman.
How did that happen?
Can I just say something?
Absolutely.
Oftentimes, we have had in the past resolutions which are brought forward by multiple members of council. So in this particular case, there was a telephone conversation saying, this is the red, would you be willing to support it? And I said, yes. So I think that this is not something that's unusual. It's something that has happened many times in the past where you know, on a particular issue, you have multiple people from council that bring it forward. So it's not something that's unusual.
The unusual is seeing all the 6 names on the on the resolution and not anybody reaching out to me. This is unusual.
Well,
but okay, we can move forward. I have another question.
I want to answer that if you don't mind, Councilwoman. In the past, we have asked you on several occasions to meet with council to go over this in committee form, and you have not done that. You each and every time put a resolution forward without any input from council.
Mr. Ken, this is the 4th time I introduced a resolution. There have been meetings done. Was there a meeting for this resolution? It does not follow any proper procedures or any proper process. It did not go through with any committee. So that I mean, just like my resolution had to go through all the committee meetings and follow all the procedures and whatever the excuses were, it didn't follow any kind of process. It didn't go to the committee.
Councilwoman, if I can ask you, I wasn't here, correct. I wasn't here until January 2nd. Did your previous resolution go through committee?
Mr. Frank Pindamon, you were sitting over there. You were elected official. When
No,
I
you wasn't.
introduced
The
my
question I'm
resolution-
asking is, did it go through committee? Not regular meeting, did it go through committee? I wasn't part
so
of it.
first time it was pulled out of agenda because it didn't go to committee.
Okay.
The second time it went to the committee and everybody said it's not going to be supported. They will not support.
Okay.
So yes, it went through the committee, but this one doesn't. So I don't know why we are still voting on that. My other
Wait,
question
I'm
is
sorry, I don't know what you're showing.
the peace resolution.
Oh, this, okay.
Another question I have. First of all, this resolution is very vague. Okay, according to Mr. Shear, every resolution eventually become a law. But
Not resolution.
No.
Not resolution.
Ordinance.
Ordinance are law.
Ordinance.
Yeah, I mean, resolutions
But,
resolutions may approve action, resolutions may be a declaration like you're proposing now, which has happened in the past. And just as far as the process go in committees, because we did have a little learning curve last night, and that's that if things are going to go into committee where there's actually a resolution already prepared and there's going to be discussion, we'll in the future make sure we have an agenda for the if we're going to go through committee. The reference of going through committee, I think, involves some other issues and resolutions that you introduced previously, dealing with actually city matters and amendments to our actual ordinances that did not necessarily go through the process. normally would be, there's a discussion, and that's where, by the way, Tuesday nights to me is the time committees talk about proposing legislation or getting information about pending legislation, just information so that when you come here on Wednesday night and it's on the agenda, you can deliberate, you could ask the questions, just like these motions, like these resolutions now, the motion seconded, it's subject to discussion, which you're having, you're deliberating now, and it is not uncommon in legislation where a person prepares a bill and looks for co-sponsors. And they do that individually, so it's not a violation of the Sunshine Act. Because frankly, you could go into a workshop session, you could do a breakout session now, 3 people at a time, and it wouldn't violate the Sunshine Act.
So that was not my question. My question was like, my statement was about, you made, Mr. Shi, like back in when I introduced the resolution. I said the same thing, that the resolution is basically the opinion and the expression of our thoughts. And you said resolution eventually becomes a law.
I don't believe I ever used those words because it's not a law. This is an expression of what? A law is you can or you cannot do the following. A resolution like this is.
I'm glad you said that now, but that time.
Well,
anyway, we can move.
Yeah, play
I
back
have
the
another
tape.
question.
We'll ask Audie what he remembers.
I will defend Mr. Solicitor. That's exactly what you said. You know the difference between the resolution and an ordinance. Let's not debate it any longer. She can say whatever she wants.
Exactly.
An ordinance is a law. A resolution is not.
Exactly. That's exactly what I said at the last meeting. But anyway, so
You're saying a
Mr. Shi,
resolution
did
is
you read the
law.
resolution?
Resolution is not law.
Excuse me?
Did you read the resolution?
Only as the public did. I did not see it in advance.
Okay, so you did not help craft
No,
the
no, I had nothing to do with the actual verbiage.
Okay, and
And actually, let me. I did see a draft at one point, as an understanding that there was a discussion about introducing it. I had no input whatsoever. It was actually just shown to me that there's this discussion going on for an alternate resolution.
so you were aware of this resolution, right?
I was not. When I say aware, I saw on a phone a resolution. There was no awareness as far as my mind digesting the material, and so there was no input from the solicitor's office on the content of that resolution.
Okay, so this resolution said there are over 15 armed conflicts, 45 armed conflicts. What are those 45 armed? Can you guys name 45 conflicts? Because we can't just pass a resolution, right? We have to identify the problem and offer a solution. If we are not able to identify a problem and offer a solution, that's just a piece of paper. So let's identify everything, like 45 armed conflicts. Can we mention what 45 conflicts are? Like, where is that happening? Can we mention some names?
I think the thought process was that this covers there are always going to be conflicts worldwide. And we would like to say that all of us up here don't want to see people die. We don't want to see people harmed. Excuse me, please let me talk. Because I did listen to all of you when you got up here as well. So I deserve the same amount of respect. We don't want to see armed conflict throughout the world, but we want to get back to city business. And I think that if we keep bringing this up, we're getting away from the things that people elected us to do here. And I have had overwhelming amount of people come up to me and email me saying they feel one way or the other, and I respect those views, and you have the right to come up here and speak about it and protest. However, most of them have been angered that we are focusing on some issues that don't involve Easton. I ran to address affordable housing, food insecurity, all these other issues that we're not spending enough time talking about.
It's because our money is going to fund this genocide.
Our local tax dollars with which
Mr.
all of
Chairman,
us
let me
have
address
control
that.
over
You know,
do not.
Hold on one
do
second.
not-
Hold on one second, Mayor.
We do not have any control over what federal dollars are spent or from tax money locally. We only have we up here, we only have control over the local tax dollars that fund our programs, our roads, our public works programs. We don't even have control over the school budget. That's a separate entity.
Mayor, you have something you want to say?
I would agree 100% with Councilmember Rose. She's actually right. I appreciate everybody saying that $357,000 of city money is going. Not one dime of city budget is going. The budget is from the federal government, and your money is taken out of your paycheck without any input. Right? They may be right about that. They may be right about the $350,000, but it's not city budget money. It's taxpayers' money that are going to the federal government, and the federal government makes the decision how they're going to spend it. That's where this issue belongs. It belongs with the federal government, not even at the state government. Everybody can talk about state representatives.
And the city, the citizen of this city, who actually are the taxpayers, they have no say. They can't come to the council meeting and ask us not to tell our Congress not to send our tax dollar to ongoing
We have a motion and
genocide.
a second out there, and
It's,
our discussion
no,
is getting away from the issue.
It is a discussion time, Mr. James. And
On the issue,
On the issue.
On the
yes.
issue,
I am
Councilwoman.
responding to Mr. Pinto. So
on the
45 armed
resolution as
conflicts.
it's written.
If you want, from the Geneva Academy, I mean, I just Googled it, by Mohammed Soleiman, there is a mistake. The 45 armed conflicts is only in the Middle East and North Africa. So we have to increase the number of armed conflicts if we want to. I think Mr. O'Hare
62.
said 61 or something.
I think it's over 62.
Yeah, so it's.
So it could be 62, it could be 45. Okay, I'm not going into the number. My point is to mention all those names, because 45 and 62, like people who will be reading this resolution in future, they wouldn't know what 45 countries or the areas have been in armed conflict. So we have to mention the names of the places. I mean, it says worldwide, but that doesn't make sense to me. Like, we have to identify their names.
I don't think you have to do anything. The resolution could be whatever the council members here decide they want to pass. I mean, I've spoken as a citizen that I would prefer if city council never dealt with any of these resolutions, but that's as a citizen. As solicitor, I have to say you can do it. If you want to, if you make a motion and you get a second, you can pass any expression of interest. This resolution isn't being sent to anyone. It's simply a statement of the 6 people who co-sponsored this as to how they feel about plight in the world.
Ma'am, let me just say this to the audience, and this is the last one I'm going to say it. We gave you respect when you came to the podium, and we did not speak. So for you to holler out in your seat is very disrespectful, and I won't have it.
Councilman.
So 45 armed conflicts, right? And at the same time, it says displacement, a loss of life. Can we mention how many lives have been lost and where?
If city council wants to dedicate their time to writing papers like that, they can. But if they want to make a summary statement like this resolution, they have the absolute right to say that. It is as detailed as the original resolutions that you had presented.
No, I mentioned every single name and numbers of the
Based on information that you have, and it deleted a lot of other information that was brought up by other council people. And it's a question of how much time you want to become studious in this. I would suggest you have to look at your city budget, you have to hire outside experts, and you have to start meeting for extended periods of time to totally understand this, maybe add to the budget trips to these places, but that's usually what Congress does of the federal government, not a city.
So we are not telling Israel or Palestine to stop whatever they're doing. We are telling Congress, our Congresswoman Susan Wild, to call for ceasefire. We are not doing anything internationally. We are telling our Congress, this was my resolution about. I have mentioned all the names, Congresswoman Susan Wild, Governor Josh Shapiro, U.S. Senator Bob Casey, U.S. Senator John Fetterman, Bob Freeman to call for ceasefire. We are not telling Israel or Netanyahu to do anything. We are telling our Congresswoman to call for ceasefire.
And that's, that.
We have, excuse me,
I'm sorry.
Attorney, we have a call to question.
Yeah, you could call the question
We
anytime.
have a call to question.
I have another question about
No,
war
we have a
crimes.
call to question. We're gonna move on.
Parliamentary wise, if the council member asks to call the question and it's seconded and it's agreed to, the question's called and you vote.
And we need a second.
Councilman, I disagree with the call to question. We're having a discussion. It doesn't, nobody's been disrespectful. I think we can continue the discussion for a little bit more, in my opinion. That's
Thank
just
you.
me.
Hearing no, is there
So
a
yes,
second?
I
Oh, excuse me one second, please. Is there a second on the call to question? Hearing none, then we can move on. Please continue.
So I have another question about war crimes. Who is committing war crimes? We can't just tell the whole world they are committing a war crime.
Is there no more questions or what? Well, I don't know what we're doing. There's either no questions or there's questions. I
No,
don't
there's
know
more
what-
question. There wasn't a second, or like a second to, for the call to question, so we'll continue on
there was-
discussion.
Okay, you didn't get a second. Okay, got it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So war crime, like we can't just say like the whole world is committing a war crime. We have to mention who is committing a war crime. So we may want to mention the name of those countries or the militaries who are actually committing a war crime.
I think, Councilman,
That's defined by the World Court, not by individuals. I mean, the World Court has to convict
No, but
somebody.
it's said in the resolution that war crimes. So whereas armed conflicts and war crimes are an egregious violation of human rights, causing like I agree with the statement. I'm not saying this statement is wrong.
Yeah.
But we have to identify who is committing war crime.
But the point is that you don't know. I mean, if there's a conflict going on, until whoever's in that conflict comes before the World Court and gets convicted of a war crime, it's like going to court here. You know, until you're convicted, you're not guilty, right?
Yeah.
And so how can we say, okay, you're doing a war crime when they
Then-
haven't been convicted yet?
Then why isn't mentioned in this resolution?
It's just a general
We oppose war crimes.
post war crimes. I mean, I think
Right,
that's a pretty
but who
good
is
statement.
committing? I
So,
understand,
yeah.
but who is committing war
No matter who commits them, we oppose them.
Congresswoman, if 1 second.
Congresswoman?
Councilwoman, she said Congress, I got thrown off. I'm only going to speak for myself. I only got here January 2nd, but I heard the other people that came and spoke before that. I spoke to many residents. I spoke to members of this group. We broke bread. We discussed it. I scheduled a meeting with them and Mayor Panto, brought them together to discuss it. I tried to put a meeting together with them and Susan Wild. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. As a resident, as a person who's my mother's side of the family, a lot of them are still in Lebanon. You know, we have our issues there, and there's concerns that after this one, it goes over that way. I talk to family, I talk to community. I have 740 emails just today alone. 90% of them told me they didn't elect me to represent them on international business. They elected me to represent them City of Easton business. I have conversations, if anybody would like to see the text, with Susan Wild as an individual, as a resident, of how I feel about what's going on, how I feel what should be done. But as a representative of Easton, the people didn't ask me to just speak on what I believe. And the majority, and you can go through my emails, I'll give my emails to the press, the majority have asked me to focus on City of Easton business for what they elected me to do. And that's why I won't speak as a councilman. What I do as an individual is what I do. But as a councilman, the duties is to represent the city residents. And the overwhelming majority of Easton City residents and taxpayers, as you mentioned, have told me to stay out of international business. The issue, or not the issue, pardon me, the goal of the resolution was to say, we're not monsters. We don't agree with babies being killed. We don't agree with children being starved, to which 2 weeks ago I sent an email to Susan Wild when that came out, that the aid wasn't getting there, babies were being starved. But the resolution is to say, we don't agree or support war crimes or anything of that nature anywhere in the world at any time. So if it changes next week, if it changes next year, we don't support that. There's never a time where we're going to support that. It's a blanket statement because we don't, unlike Congress, we don't have staff that get briefed by Washington, that get briefed by professionals. We are regular people who work a job and come here and help. We're not updated on everything that's happening over the world. We're not in a position to take stance on it. So that's what the resolution was made for, to say whether it's now or until another council comes and changes it, we don't support war crimes. We don't support withholding humanitarian packages. We don't support any of that. But we're here to focus on the city of Easton business. Thank you.
So, Mr. Frank Binamon, are you saying this is not City of Easton?
I didn't say that. What I said
No,
was I heard them, and I heard everybody, and the overwhelming majority. So, I also have a huge group that says of that are against Palestine. I didn't listen to that either. The overwhelming majority said stay out of it. So I have to do what the majority of my constituents are asking me to do. Whether my family agrees with it or I agree with it, I have to do with what I was elected to do.
I think we were elected to represent our community, represent every single person of this community, no matter they are white or black or purple or orange or Muslim or Jewish, every single person of this community.
But you can't represent every person individually. It's impossible.
It's not individually.
But you have to go with the majority. If I go with every one person, I can't make a decision. I have to change my mind every 2 seconds. So I got to look at the majority and vote that. Even if it's not what I wholeheartedly believe in, I still have to do it, right? So I talked to the Congresswoman about, permanent ceasefires, about getting food there. But I can't just sit here and speak for me. And the majority asked me not to speak on it. So I have to swallow whatever I want and be the representative that they elected me to be.
And I agree with that because I've been getting phone calls, emails, and things like that, and even stop getting calls 5 o'clock in the morning on things like this. And what they're telling me is that they had an opportunity to see both resolutions on the internet, and that they'd rather for us as council persons to do the business of the city of Easton and stay out of state affairs. This is 10 times higher level than we are, So I thought in my mind and the rest of the council members that put this resolution together that we hit all the marks and that this will be sufficient enough to say that we don't agree.
So I want to start with Mr. Frank Pinamon's statement, like 700 emails. I received the same emails, 700. And it's so funny to see the copy and pasted just one statement and 40 emails coming out in 40 seconds doesn't tell me those are the Eastern resident or they actually really concerned. What respects for the respect they have people like from my respect, these are the people. I'm sorry, I'm lost of my words. These are the people who are out in rain, in cold, in snow, protesting, demonstrating, speaking out, and coming here like at every single meeting. This is what matters, not people who are sitting at their cozy homes and sending out a copy-paste email. I have like 650 emails that were just copy and pasted the same text message, same text in 650 emails.
So the other people don't matter?
Every person matters, but what I'm saying, I don't know where those emails coming from. They're coming from Israel, or they're coming from another country, or they're coming from Canada. I have no idea because those emails doesn't contain any address, any other information.
So I'm asking, should we ignore them? Because the gentleman that spoke in favor of your resolution said a lot of people haven't come even from Lafayette, because they have papers, they have work, they have other things. A lot of Easton residents don't come because they don't feel this is our
My
business.
only concern is receiving 40 or 50 emails within 15 to 20 seconds, which it seems like it's like they've been using both. Honestly, I'm sorry to
They've
say
been
that.
using what?
But
bots.
yeah, I mean, this is how it feels like because 700 emails from yesterday to today, this afternoon. And if I see, and I can show to the press as well, 925, 925, 925, 925, like hundreds of emails, like at 925, and then hundreds of emails, exactly the same time. So I honestly, personally, I don't know where those emails are coming from because there's no address mentioned. But these people who live in the city of Easton, those are the people who live in the city.
But Councilwoman, we also got emails that were in support of your resolution. I don't know where they came from either, but I responded to them. But I can't sit there and go through to see who's what. I got to take people for what it is. I mean,
again,
we don't know when the people that come up, we don't know where they're from. I'm not saying anybody's lying, but we can't prove that either. We've had people that come up and spoke before. One time they lived in Nazareth, one time they lived in Bethlehem. We don't know. So it's the same thing with the email.
Well, one of the things, Councilwoman, that you said at our last meeting was the reason why you wanted to bring a resolution up again is because you wanted to hear from the new council members that are sitting now. I believe this evening you heard from them.
Oh yeah, and everybody else too. I'm glad.
I'm not saying. I said something very kind.
That was in the intent.
And that was you came back a very, let's just let it go. But
I
anyway.
have another concern about this resolution, the so-called peace resolution. It says the city of Easton reaffirm its commitment to promoting dialogue, diplomacy, and peaceful resolution of conflict, both domestically and internationally, which is ironically, suddenly, it's international business, right? But how come we can reaffirm our commitment without calling for ceasefire?
I think we explained that, Councilwoman, earlier on.
When our children fight, right, we don't tell them to peace, right? We ask them to cease fire, stop the fight, and maintain the peace. But without calling for a ceasefire, like passing this peace, like this vague so-called peace resolution, like where's peace where? Where do we need a peace? Can we mention those countries actually? Middle East or whatever, where do we want to see the peace?
I feel it's general in nature because we don't want to see conflict anywhere,
That
and
covers
we
it all.
also don't want to. We also don't want to keep revisiting the conversation over and over and over again. We want to get back to discussing our local issues at hand.
This is a local issue.
Can we call a question?
This is a local
Been called a
issue.
question?
And everybody else who spoke at this podium has mentioned
I
why
second the call to
this is a
question.
local issue.
It's been called a question. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been second. Okay, we move. Let's see where. Public comment. A minute vote, please.
No.
Oh,
We have no.
You got a vote.
No, we got a first, second discussion. Now we need a vote on the resolution. Roll call vote for the resolution.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mrs. Rose?
Yes.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
No.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Okay, and we're on the
Public comment.
public comment on any matter.
No, you gotta now vote on the motion, on the resolution.
We did.
We just did.
No, that was,
That we just voted on the resolution.
Resolution was called and then you voted.
I'm sorry.
All right, so now we gotta vote
Vote
on
on
the
the
resolution.
No, I think it was sufficient. I
voted on the
was
call
under
to
the impression.
Yes, that we was all running a discussion, so therefore,
Okay.
Vote it again.
Yeah, okay, generally, when you call the question, then what you're doing is you're vote, and the chair continues, but if there's, to avoid any confusion, we'll deem that last vote to, call the question, and now you're gonna vote on the resolution. which was already motion and seconded, so it's now ready for a vote.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Eddinger?
Sorry.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Yes.
Mrs. Rose? Aye. Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
No.
And Mayor Panto?
Aye.
Okay, public comments on any item.
Excuse me. I apologize. Can we call a recess? I've drank 3 bottles of water. I gotta pee. And I don't want to miss anybody. I don't want to be ignorant and not hear a comment.
Right into the camera while you're saying that.
I don't want to miss anybody's comment, but
A recess for 5 minutes, please.
thank you.
Gentlemen,
Madam Clerk, I'll be leaving the
fellas
meeting.
in the back, do you need papers signed for school? Bring them up.
Madam Clerk, did you hear me?
I'm sorry, I did not.
I will be leaving the meeting.
Sorry
I have
for
to leave.
keeping you out so
Okay.
late, guys.
Thank you.
Bet you
Thank
would've
you.
left there if you knew this was gonna go on.
Anywhere?
Yep. Thank you, thanks for coming.
Good teacher. Oh, okay. Okay, Eagle. I like it. Hopefully we get that running back from New York. They're working on it.
Yep.
Kenny,
Yes, ma'am.
bye, honey, take care. Oh, wait.
Chris,
Bye, Roger, take care.
what you doing, Chris? Get out of here, Chris.
Oh, I know that.
So did you start the clock for the 5-minute recess?
I will. She's in, what kind of one? Okay, but I've seen it on a lot of pictures. Come on, check. Come on, check.
Oh, they went to the Eagles shrine. She's the Eagles. Well, we're.
I said hello.
I will.
Your mom will open and open that. like this. Hey, Roger, did you notice I got taller?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
You're pulling a Sandy on me.
I tried to get a pillow, but Rita took it.
I feel better now.
Right back here.
No, Rita took it.
My moguls were floating. There was no way. My moguls were floating.
Man, you gonna go viral.
It's outside. I was just right here. We got away with it.
Okay, so are we back?
We're ready.
Are we
I'm ready.
back in session?
Nope.
Tyba. She's back there.
Gonna call it back to order, please.
Sorry.
Sorry?
Sorry.
No, it's no worries at all.
May I have your name, spelling of your
Sure.
first and last name? please?
Sure, Gazal, last name is Jabir, and I live in downtown 18104. Good evening, good hearing from everyone here. Thank you all for showing up. I really appreciate it. I wanted to make, a point about most of what was covered in the agenda, not just the ceasefire or peace resolutions. For example, the carbon emission fuels, a recent study published on the Social Science Research Network, the greenhouse emission gas from the Israeli-Gaza conflict, they say, reveals that an estimated emissions from only the first 2 months of the war. We're in month 5, by the way. First 2 months were greater than the annual emission of 20 individual countries and territories. So this is a relevant issue, and I mean, the person who spoke earlier from Easton, I appreciate his public comment, mentioned, the Canadian fires that affected us. I mean, the world is becoming very small, we're realizing, with this global climate change, and everything that every country is doing affects us. So the amount that Israel's, emitted into the atmosphere from bombs and warplanes is a really large quantity. And that's the first 2 months, by the way. And this is like very preliminary research. There's going to be more research as this continues. It's been shared by the British Daily Guardian. It also reveals that within the first 2 months, there was 281,000 tons of carbon dioxide emitted, okay? Another point I want to make is about public responsibility. The last time we were here, if you guys remember, the numbers that Raya mentioned we were dealing with were in the tens of thousands. That number's tripled. And I'm not saying that if the city of Easton passed a resolution for a ceasefire, we wouldn't have seen those numbers, but you would have done your duty. That's why I'm here right now. That's why we're here right now. That's why every person goes out. We're doing our part. We're not saying that the city of Easton is going to change the world. And I mean, Congresswoman Susan Wild had the same argument. She tried to say, I'm just a little person, but you guys here are looking up to Susan Wild and saying she's the one that should be making the decisions. And every person is deflecting this responsibility. And if we just focused on every individual power that we have, whether that be a person, a university, a council, a representative, maybe things would be different. But it's dismissive and it's completely disrespectful to democracy, because democracy works from the bottom up. If you say that the federal government is just in control and we have nothing to say to it, then we're not living in a democracy. And in terms of, she's not here anymore, but I was glad that she spoke. We do things locally. I mean, Lehigh Valley Food Not Bombs is here almost every single time. She wasn't able to be here tonight, but we're people that feed the community. We're part of community organizations. The leader of My Lehigh Valley is here tonight too, which is an advocacy group. We do volunteer work. I mean, we do. We're just not here and mentioning it as a prerequisite before we begin. And also, we have to recognize how much the U.S. is investing in Israel on a local level, university level, state level. And if you guys, the response that we got was too vague. And the truth is, maybe I don't know where these 300,000 come from, but let's become more literate about where our money is going and see how we can influence it. That's why we're here today. And to comment on the resolution that was just passed, completely disrespectful, dismissive, and completely vindicates the U.S. from our immediate and direct involvement in this specific conflict that is unique. Of those 45, this conflict, the Oxfam, British-based charity, Oxfam, says that this conflict, the people that have died in this conflict have surpassed any other conflict in the 21st century. I'm sorry, this is a unique situation. People are dying at a rate of 250 civilians per day. This is unique. Do not tell me 45 conflicts. This is unique, and we are directly involved. So it's very dismissive, and it vindicates us of our immediate responsibility. Finally, I want to address what you said. I'm confused as to what you think is going to harm the city of Easton if you had just voted yes to the ceasefire resolution months ago. What would we have lost? I don't understand. Like, yeah, we want to get back to immediate issues. If you had just voted yes, we wouldn't have had to keep coming back. And you guys passing the resolution, I'm sorry, if you want to,
I just wasn't here months ago. I just came on January 2nd.
that's fine. But what I'm saying is, if we had just even this tonight, I don't understand what you voting yes would harm the civilians of Easton. It just doesn't make sense. And then the last thing I want to mention is, I think that we are sensing a deep awakening within the American public. This is why we're here. We're asking, like, what's going on? You know, we are realizing our individual power. I urge you to realize your power as the city of council. Do not dismiss this. This is democracy in process, if you will. Thank you. Oh, you know what? One more comment. My friends were actually at the Allentown City Council, and a anti-ceasefire group went up and proposed a resolution. And your resolution wording is very, very exactly the same, actually. There's really no difference between them.
We didn't copy it. We all put our own thing in. We did not copy a thing in there.
Oh, okay. Well, it actually looks word by word copy pasted from
No.
the Jewish Federation.
No.
So it seems like you're representing a very small portion of the population. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ma'am, if you would like afterward, I'll show you the email thread where it started, where it ended, and you won't see anything from anybody else. We speak for ourselves.
Wait, but we were at a city council meeting over
I'm
weeks
sure
ago.
I hear you. I wasn't
mean,
there though.
co-
I
wait,
can't
copy
speak for Allentown.
pasted. It's just hard. It's just hard to.
I will show you the thread. Is what I'm saying. I
I'm
don't want
sure.
I don't want you to think we're not listening to any group. We're our own individual.
And I mean,
I will show you the thread so you can see where the conversation started, where it went.
sure. And I mean, the
It was
email.
words just being kicked back and forth. What about this? How about this? I think
Sure.
it was done 2 or 3 times, and we scrapped it and started over. So
I mean, it's very odd, and I'm telling you. You know what else is odd? What Ms. Sultana mentioned about 40 emails being sent within 40 seconds. It's really problematic. And when I submit my opinion on the page for the council, for you guys, I put in my first, last name, and zip code because it requires me to. So when you mentioned, oh, I'm not going to sort through, well, there is a sorting process. Your site has a sorting process. So if you can, and also it does matter who sends an email versus who shows up. That should carry some weight. And I understand. I'm a medical student. My schedule is very packed, but we make the time because we care about these issues. And I want to mention again, nobody would be harmed if you voted yes for a ceasefire resolution. In fact, you would have had the entire agenda and the entire time for other issues, right? If we had voted yes, it wouldn't harm anyone. And also, I want to mention too, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, honestly. I feel privileged to be allowed to be here. You guys are listening to me. We attended other council meetings. There was a lot less bickering and fighting. Like, guys, it's embarrassing, and it feels like you guys are really targeting a certain member. Like, I mean, you guys have decades. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't mean to be preaching to people that are older than me. So, you know, with all due respect, but come on. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thomas
name again?
Henson.
Okay, thank you so much. You have 5 minutes.
Before, I'm a Lafayette College student. I want to say that this council seems unable to actually address this issue without deflecting and misinterpreting our demands. We know that you do not directly control the tax dollars that go to Israel. We are not trying to get you to directly change the amount of tax dollars sent to Israel. We are trying to get you to send a message to higher representatives, which is something that you can do as a city council. We brought up that our tax dollars are involved here to show you and people in this community how this is an issue that directly affects them. You are trying to turn people in this community against us by drawing a line between local issues that we are distracting you from. But this makes me confused. Are we taking up so much of your time that you can't deal with community issues? Or are we just a convenient excuse here for you to not deal with community issues? If, we are taking up so much of your time, why not vote for a ceasefire? Then we wouldn't take up any more of your time. But it is foolish to think that by voting no on this resolution that we are going to stop taking up some of your time. If you voted to support a ceasefire, we would stop showing up here. We would stop wasting the time meant for local issues, as you say. But because we believe this to be a local issue, we are going to keep showing up here and keep wasting your time, as you seem to think we're doing. You did not vote for a ceasefire, and so by your own fault, we will keep showing up here for the people in Gaza and for the people here, as we all are affected by this. It is you that are wasting the time of all people in the community by ignoring the people in the community that want a ceasefire.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jason Moore. I assure you I am an Easton resident. If you need to see a utility bill, I can bring it. Just, you know. And nobody answered my email, by the way. I mean, nobody did, so. And it had my name on it. It had, you know, I pointed out that I'm an Easton resident. I only have 5 minutes. I don't have any prepared remarks to make, but I'd like to take 5 minutes of your time. I would like everyone to come up here and just take 5 minutes of your time, keep you here all night, if that's what, you know. And also, it's not a privilege, it's a right. So I just want you to consider whoever said that it was a privilege to be up here. It's not. It's not a privilege. So I've got like 4 minutes, 46 seconds. I'm just going to start reading names. I'm really going to be bad at pronouncing these, and I apologize to anyone in the room who might be offended by that. I just want to take up the entirety of my time. So let's see. We've got Muhammad Esem Ahmed Saleh, he was 6 years old. Mona Ahmed Muhammad Hasuna, 6 years old. Everyone on this page is 6 years old, by the way. This page too, this one. These are 7-year-olds. It's over 100 pages. You know, I would read the entire thing tonight if I was allowed to. Of course, I'm not. So. Let's see. Let me go down to some really shockingly young children. Let's see. Maybe that. Oh wow! Did that one fall off my printer? You know, the little tray that was accepting the pages just didn't hold them. They were falling on the ground, right? So I may not have grabbed the. Oh, there they are. Less than a year old. So you know, these were published in Al Jazeera. All of them 0 years old, and this was. Shockingly, one of the biggest chunks of names. So, you know, I think we heard early on, back in October, something about 40 babies or something like that. Well, we've got a lot more here, so. And that was, you know, proven to be untrue anyway, so. Let's see, we've got Abdul Karim Kamel Zidane Al-Hawadri, 0 years old. Abdullah Ahmed Khalil Zarab, 0 years old. Abdullah Amir Abdullah Al-Khor, 0 years old. Abdullah Muhammad Abdul Hamid Muhana, 0 years old. Adam Magdi Jaber Al-Dadu, 0 years old. Adam Muhammad Faud Al-Aga, 0 years old. Adam Muhammad Samir Abu Ajwa, 0 years old. Ahmed Momin Ahmed Dalul, 0 years old. Ahmed Mohammed Amin Nofal, 0 years old. Ahmed Saeed Ahmed Fauda, 0 years old. Ahmed Shadi Talal Al Haddad, 0 years old. You know, it's just mind-numbing to go through this, right? But these are all names. These aren't just, you know, numbers. I mean, the numbers get thrown around a lot. We see, you know, we hear 30,000, I think is what we're close to now, right? And you know, who knows with these other, whatever, 40 conflicts that y'all can't name. I mean, you know, I will speak on that resolution. I'm deeply disappointed because it's cynical. That's probably the part that bothers me the most about it, is the cynicism behind it. It is cynical. I don't care what any of you say. You cannot convince me otherwise. If somebody presents something in the affirmative, and your you know, response is to equivocate, it is cynical. That is what it is. That's the definition of cynicism, and you're not going to convince me otherwise. I'm sorry. Moaz Abdel Fattah Khaled Al Zuhairi, 0 years old. You know, let's skip up a few years. Let's see, we've got some 8-year-olds. Any of you have children? Maybe 8 years old, somewhere around there. My son is 15. There are 15-year-olds on here. I was looking through the list of 15-year-olds, and I was shocked. And that's the age of my son. I would be devastated, right? I mean, I'm sure you've all heard the phrase that no parent wants to bury their child, right? I mean, that's something everybody says. It's so cliche, but it's true, right? Mohammed Sadi Mizpah Heles, 15 years old. Mohammed Sobi Mohammed Awad, 15 years old. Mohammed Yusuf Hassan Natat, 15 years old. Masab Kamis Ibrahim Balul, 15 years old. Musk Firas Mazin Shawa, 15 years old. Muslima Muhammad Ahmed Bar, 15 years old. Nabil Ibrahim Misbah Mahdi, 15 years old. And it looks like I have 3 seconds left, so I'll just stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. What's your first name again?
Logan,
Logan,
Logan.
Okay. You have 5 minutes.
So as I stated earlier, I am not an Easton resident, and I'm sorry if that offends anybody on the city council, but as I said, I do not have the ability to go to my city and to talk about this because it is not safe there. And while we were physically spit on in my town, you guys might have well have done the same thing. And in my town, even though we might have been driven out, we will not be driven out of here. Because as I said when I was up here earlier, there was 1,000 of us outside of this building 4 months ago, and here we are still packing the room to tell you to do the same thing, to tell you to do the same damn thing that we've been telling you to do for 4 months. This is an atrocity of unparalleled amounts in the modern day. Something similar to it was the apartheid regime that governed South Africa for several decades. The movement that started the boycott, divest, sanction movement was started in universities and in small cities across the United States and across the world. The movement stated the wanting to divest the funds from public cities and from universities out of the South African government. And that movement, even though it started in small cities like this and at universities, was able to build on a global scale because one city led to another and one university led to another. That's what we're saying. That's what we're asking. We're asking you to start the ball rolling because nobody else will. So, and I'd also like to comment on the resolution that was brought up, and I'd like to comment on how Councilwoman Sultan has been treated tonight, because I have been in Bethlehem and I've been in Allentown as well. Bethlehem was an incredible atmosphere. The council people in Bethlehem, when they disagreed with each other, they disagreed with each other with grace. They treated each other like they were respected elected officials. You guys have not been holding yourselves to the same account, in my opinion. The same thing happened in Allentown. Even though the people on the board in Allentown disagreed with us, they were still much more respectful than this. And you say, you know, we've respected you, we've listened to you, this is your job. We handed you this job. We handed you the pay that it gives you. We've handed you the hours that it gives you. This is the job that we've given you, or at least the people here, since I'm not from here, and that doesn't matter apparently. The resolution that you've presented on 45 conflicts, Councilwoman brought this up. It's vague. You guys said that international issues aren't in your purview, but now they are with this resolution that you seem to have crafted without her knowledge and without any of our knowledge, because I was shocked to learn of this, and I've been keeping up with the council, and so has everyone else in here. It's vague. She wasn't brought up on it, it appears. And so I just don't know how you can present we've given you a very specific issue, and I think it was Mr. Pintabone, you said that you have a bunch of people emailing you that they don't want you to address international issues. That's fine, but we have a bunch of people in this room asking you to do. So here's what you can do to please everyone. You can pass a ceasefire resolution like we're asking you to, and then you can go on with the regular business of Easton like you have tonight and like you have every other city council meeting. There's a resolution for a ceasefire, pass it, please us, we won't come here and bother you, and then you can continue doing what you're already doing. There's people emailing you, they don't want you dealing with business outside of your purview. You're still dealing with your business, even if you're doing a ceasefire resolution. We've seen that here tonight. The ceasefire resolution is brought up. You guys vote it down, and then even before and after, you should continue to talk about the city of Easton business. Why can't you do both? You guys are limiting yourselves. You guys are not children. You can handle two things at once, I think, and you can handle plenty, clearly, because you've been elected and you continue to do so. So why can't you pass a ceasefire resolution and to continue to do the business of the people of Easton? And on the resolution that you have all, and to an even further point, it wasn't in your purview when it was a ceasefire resolution, but now it's in your purview when it's on these 45 unnamed conflicts that we had no information about. If you're going to pass this resolution about these other conflicts, at least specify. What she said was right. It doesn't make sense. Where are these conflicts? Who's committing the crimes? How are you going to pass a resolution and not have any specificities? This means nothing. And even it was brought up that the number of conflicts in the bill isn't even correct. It's just limited to a certain scope of the world. So you're going to condemn 45 conflicts that exist one part of the world, but you won't pass the ceasefire resolution that we've been begging you to do for months, and we have to keep coming here and begging you to do it. And so my point is, you can do two things at once. Thank you. And I will be driving my 1 hour home now. Thank you, everyone.
Drive safe.
Be safe.
Thank you.
And I honestly hope it works out better for you. It'd be like a shame that you can't be in your own city. So I apologize for that.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
I came up. Oh,
Your
sorry.
first name again?
Ari Ismail, ARISMAIL. Once again from
Thank you.
Easton.
And you have 5 minutes.
Yeah. Right. I've come up here. I've cried up here. You know, in front of the news, which was incredibly humiliating when I saw that later. It was not a fun experience for me. I'm tired of being nice, so I'm just gonna be real. I'm incredibly disappointed at this city that I've actually come to see as my second home. Well, I don't know. I've got a lot of places, some transnational identities, you know. Has once again not even seconded a resolution. I think that it's really interesting how, what do you call it? Basically what you said was, you said, stop the fighting, war is bad, and then didn't do anything about it. Like, it's really as simple as that. It's not that hard for you to use your voices and your platforms and to, you know, listen to your constituency, to just talk to the higher ups. Like, if you got a problem at work, talk to your boss about it. Don't just sit there and say, oh my God, I can't do anything about it. Like, you have that ability. And that's what we're doing. We're just civilians. We're just regular people, and we're here talking. Well, we could be at home. I could be asleep. I have a mad headache right now. Probably caused by you guys. Let me think. Again, I don't want to be up here wasting your time, because I understand that you have families and kids to get home to, but I can't in any good conscience, while children are dying in Gaza every single day, allow you to go home and, you know, not even think about the consequences of what you've done while this is continuing to happen. So that's why I'm here. And am I allowed to, like, ask a question and you're allowed to answer back? Like, is that allowed? No.
Generally, this isn't a case of discussion. You could, generally, if there's things on the merits, you could ask a question of the chair, but that's part of the time. I also note that the comments by the public session is generally to give you new input. It's not for an action, to filibuster when there's nothing to filibuster. I think the chair can ask, is the opinions the same as have been heard earlier, because then you've done your job of listening to the comments of the public. And if there's nothing new to add, there's no reason why you can't even reduce the time to 3 minutes, or just ask, is there anything new? Because otherwise it's not serving any purpose other than to try to punish you.
Okay, cool.
Thank you, counsel.
Yeah.
Thank you, counsel, for that.
So am I allowed? Didn't really answer my question.
It's a public.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
I literally just want to ask why not? Why? I understand that you've explained, like, oh, because it doesn't affect my constituency, because I have 90 90% of those emails were saying that we shouldn't focus on international business, but that's not enough of a reason for me. I'm wondering why specifically you morally don't want to sign on to the ceasefire resolution. It's literally that easy. You know how scary it is right now that I'm shaking? Like, I'm coming up here, I'm doing this, like, this isn't my job, I don't have to be doing this, so I just want to know why. Can anybody answer me that, please? If not, I'm gonna stand here for a minute and 30 seconds. I'll read more names. I see that you don't have an answer. Okay, let's go to, we'll go 14 years old because my brother is 14. He's the light of my life. I'm sure you have kids who are the best thing in your life. You know what, I can't find the 14-year-olds. Nabila Ibrahim Misma Madi, 15 years old. Nesma Mahmoud Aish Shaheen, 15 years old. Nidal Ala Sami Al-Daye, 15 years old. Noor Al-Huda Muhammad Ali Hamo, 15 years old. Ubaida Al-Jara Mahmoud Misba Al-Khor, 15 years old. Omar Mahmoud Khalil Al-Darbi, 15 years old. Osama Suleiman Naim Brahma, 15 years old. Hussam Sami Ode Abu Safia, 16 years old. Khudayfa Imad Ahmed Abu Ghemaize, 16 years old. Khudayfa Yusuf Muhammad Al-Hila, 16 years old. Ibrahim Rami Jabr Al-Khatib, 16 years old. Ibrahim Waji Muhammad Abu Zayd, 16 years old. Lama Sami Yusuf Shaheen, 16 years old. All right, thank you.
Are you going to be speaking on the same subject as you spoke before?
Well, I have 2 points to that. I will say that I have new things to add, but secondly, if you don't consider me to have new things to add, then consider me to be fulfilling the end of your resolution that you just passed. Your past resolution that you just
didn't let me
advocated.
finish my sentence there before you got started.
I didn't get started. I'm telling you that the resolution you just passed gave me the right to exercise peaceful protest and to advocate for an end to violence and conflict worldwide.
Okay.
You just voted on that resolution, so I will take my 5 minutes, please.
You don't have 5 minutes, ma'am. That's what I'm trying to tell you before you got started. Our solicitors just informed me that if we're going to be speaking on the same subject over and over again,
Yeah, I
that
just referenced that.
we're going to cut your time to 2 minutes.
I'll speak faster then, but I'll also note that I just referenced that. I referenced what he said in regards to the resolution you just passed that said I had the right to speak in my advocacy. I'll add as well that I think it was very interesting that Sal Panto said that he co-sponsored this bill. His name is on it, but he did not read it. He said to us that he did not absorb anything that it said before he put his name on it. I'd like that to
He
be
didn't say
relevant.
that.
That's not Sal Panto.
That's not Sal Panto.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, on there.
No, he said that.
He
Mr.
said
Shears
that.
said
The
that.
solicitor said that.
The solicitor said that? I'm sorry. Pal Santo, the words came on Zoom at that
That's
point.
because you was on Zoom all the time.
Thank you. But I did think that was very interesting. I would also like to reference what was said over here, that the overwhelming majority of city residents are emailing you about this topic. I do think it's important to reference that, yes, a lot of these might be bots. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but large swaths of emails can be sent by non-real addresses, and you should be able to see that because they are copy-pasted messages, and you wouldn't be able to respond to them most of the time. You won't get a response back. Some of the people in this meeting have told you that they have emailed you and have not gotten a response back, and these are city residents. Further, though, I'd like to mention something that you said that I thought was very interesting, Mr. Pintabone. Okie doke. What I heard you say was that you aren't in the position to take a stance on what you believe morally. You are only in the position to represent the majority of your constituents. Is that true?
I was elected to represent my constituents.
Yes, you were elected to be a representation, correct?
To represent my constituents, yes.
Mm-hmm. So what is the difference between taking only the majority of what everyone says and mob rule?
The difference is I can't. Am I allowed to answer?
Sure, good.
It's impossible for me to listen to base my decision on every person. It's just impossible to do, right? So what I think we need to understand is we're part-time, right? So I don't have staff. I have to talk to as many people as I can, and I go with the majority.
Okay, so my
When
second
the
question
majority
would be,
that made the difference
can
with
I
mob
prove
rule.
what can we do to prove to you that we are the majority? Is it simply the bulk of emails? Is that what you're basing your decision off of?
And I understand there could be bots and things. I've spoken to the people. I've gotten
Mhm.
text messages from residents 5:15 in the morning before he got his. So the bots I haven't responded to. I can show you the ones I responded to, over 100. I just, with work, I just couldn't get to everybody. If there's anybody that I missed, I apologize. I've been here 44 years. We're 30,000. We only got 30,000 people. I've been here my whole life. I know a lot of people. I speak to a lot of people. As I said, I met with your people. Raya, who first came here, I took him to dinner. My Baron in the back went with us. We went and sat, ate, and talked about it. Then I scheduled a meeting with her and her friend to sit with the mayor. Then I brokered times between them and Susan Wild. So I didn't just sit home and come up with it. I've been speaking to people. Now, I don't have a name. I don't have a list of names and a total number. But the majority of the people, and I've spoken to everybody, right? I've responded to emails. I'll show you the emails for people that supported Councilwoman Sultana's resolution, from people that didn't support it, right? So it's not personal. It's not that I don't, I don't have a heart or anything. I'm here to do a job, and that's the job I have to do.
What I believe is that as a represented official, we represented you because we believed in your consciousness, in your humanity, in whatever we believed when we voted you in. We believed that you would do better for the city of Easton than a mob rule. Okay, that's why we don't have a nuke button that we get to all vote on every day. We don't get decisions at the top. We get
Excuse me.
decisions here to you.
Excuse me, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But I would just like to end by saying that you were represented to represent us.
Correct.
Because we believed in you.
Correct.
So your consciousness should be part of this. Your beliefs should be part of this.
Your time is
And
up,
that
ma'am.
should go up.
Amen.
Thank you. This would be taking my just proven advocacy protest moment to say that I think you should consider
Ma'am, your time
the
is
right
up.
that you have as an individual, but further the right that you have as a council member
Ma'am, your
to look
time is
higher
up.
and to advocate for those higher ups.
Please.
Your time
Thank you
is
so
up.
much.
Yeah,
Avon Lancaster.
thank you.
My brother is 11 years old.
You have 2 minutes, ma'am.
My brother is 11 years old. I imagine, as people have mentioned, that you guys also have children. I have a little brother who's 11 years old, and I have a middle sibling who is 15. So right now, I will be reading only a fraction of the 11-year-old Palestinian children who have been killed. Rahaf Sakar Azad Abu Rakba, 11 years old. Rahman Nahed Atala Al-Jafari, 11 years old. Rashad Nahed Azad Abel Latif, 11 years old. Rawand Mahmoud Barhum, 11 years old. Rada Gabriel Jalal Odeh, 11 years old. Razan Muhammad Ismail Eid, 11 years old. Rimas Nabil Wajia Al-Naman, 11 years old. Ritaj Dala Muin Al-Hakari, 11 years old. Ritaj Rahab Muhammad Sabah, 11 years old. Rizk Ter Resk Garib, 11 years old. Rawad Muhammad Ani Al-Mahali, 11 years old. Saad Jamil Saad Al-Kurdi, 11 years old. Saadullah Ihab Saadullah El-Hilo, 11 years old. Saber Muhammad Saber Mansour, 11 years old. Saeed Nidal Muhammad Abu Ida, 11 years old. Saeed Muhammad Saeed Al-Nafar, 11 years old. Sahar Muhammad Awad Al-Araj, 11 years old. Sajid Salah Muhammad Darish, 11 years old. Salah Muhammad Salah Abu Jazar, 11 years old. Saleh Abdel Mahmoud Al-Quran, 11 years old. Saleh Rafiq Hamuda Baran, 11 years old. Sama Muhammad Khaled Abu Arish, 11 years old. That's just the first name. That was the list of names here. As mentioned, there are over 100 pages of this. 2 columns of names. Sama Muhammad Khalil Zidane, 11 years old. Sama Salim Yassin Al-Astal, 11 years old. Sandy Muhammad Abrim Al-Ghul, 7 years old. Sarah Fuhad. Yes? Do you have something to say?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have 2 minutes.
Was there something that happened that went from 5 to 2?
Yes. Our solicitor informed me as a chairperson I have the right to, if they're going to be speaking on the same topic redundantly, that I have the right to make that time shorter. And if they're speaking on the same topic as they spoke the last time, I have the right to tell them that we have heard that before.
I have a question. I don't know how you'd receive this, and I'll let it be.
The gentleman, our solicitor spoke out loud and he said it.
I think his question is different.
No, yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, I just for me personally, because I struggle to make things work in short periods of time. I have like double time in school. It's a thing. I'm just generally a slow person with everything in life. So if you wouldn't mind, if I could just get a couple more minutes.
No, I'm not going to do that, sir.
Okay, happy to go. I did debate for a while, so I can try to speak fast, but we'll see how this goes. Has my 2 minutes started then?
It has, yes. You're
Wonderful.
116.
Great. All right. Here we go. So, thank you all, everybody. I'm back again. Here's the thing. What I hear from you is that there's a problem beyond what I had originally expected. I know that all of you are feeling something, and I was wondering for a while why nobody was doing anything about it. So I see. There seems to be an apparent sense of duty that is stopping you from letting what you know to be true. It's stopping you from actually doing something about it. And I hear you. And me personally, I'm conflicted. I don't know actually what to tell you, but here's the thing. What I'm asking you to do is not to solve the issue. What people are calling for and against, when you are saying that you're listening to your residents and the majority are saying not for or against, it's not true. Because when you say don't pass that ceasefire resolution, you're saying kill those people. You're saying I am against the Palestinian people. So actually, it's not true that you've reached a middle ground. What you've done is allowed for the people who are against a ceasefire. And let's talk about what does it mean to be against a ceasefire. Against a ceasefire means let them die.
Your
I'm
time
not
is
saying.
up, sir.
One more second. I'm not saying for 10 more minutes. Just one more second. One more second. I'm not saying let the Israelis die. I'm not saying let the Palestinians die. I'm saying stop the killing of both people. That's a ceasefire. This is not a political discussion. Okay. And so the answer is not political.
Thank you.
Kaylee Smith. And then I want to apologize earlier for speaking out loud while you guys were discussing.
Apology accepted.
Thank you. The first thing I wanted to say was, while I agree with Councilwoman Sultana that the peace resolution that was accepted today is a bit vague and could due to having, amendments to it to be maybe a bit more precise in language, I don't really see a problem with it. But what I do see is no problem with passing the ceasefire resolution as well. It would probably support what you passed today, and we could have both. It doesn't have to be just one. The other thing I'd like to say is that I believe we started this meeting in a prayer. I don't really see the appropriateness of that in a city council meeting, but if that's kind of the precedent, I'd like to read a verse from the Bible. And it says in Matthew 25:40, the king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." And I think that a lot of us here, regardless of our religious affiliation or our belief in God, we're here to do what we believe is right. And I believe in God. I'm here because I believe that I'm going to stand before him and I'm going to have to account for my actions. And I would never want to take a scapegoat route on something as serious as this. There's a surah in the Quran that says, whosoever killeth a human being for other than manslaughter or corruption in the earth, it shall be as if he had killed all mankind. And whoso saveth the life of one, it shall be as if he had saved the life of all mankind. And I just think that, if we're going to have a prayer in the city council meeting, it is appropriate that we maybe also apply our own moral compasses to decisions.
Your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please spell your first and last name.
Tasfia, Tasfia, Ahmad.
and I'm a Lehigh student. I just want to first say,
Where do you reside?
Lehigh, like
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to say one thing, well, two things, 'cause I have 2 minutes. For starters, you're very privileged to be here. One of the things that may sound like an insult to you guys, but is actually such an amazing thing, is that you guys are old. You guys got to grow up, have wrinkles, go to graduation, have all of these amazing milestones, and people in Palestine do not. I would like to believe you're around the same age or younger, giving you benefit of the doubt, that
Oh, this is getting crazy. This is
my grandmother.
I'm the same age as these two. This is what you're telling me? This is getting out of control. Bang your gavel.
My grandmother was 20 years old during 1971 when Bangladesh genocide occurred. And her goal moving forward was to make sure it never happened again. That woman is 70 years old now, just living her life, but still advocating every single day and not sitting around letting this happen over and over again. And here you guys are letting history repeat itself. Regardless if you're 50, 40, you guys saw other atrocities occur in 1980s and 70s. That's not 2 minutes. But you guys are privileged. You got to grow up, see different things. You have the wisdom, and yet you're wasting it and letting more and more people die. That is what you're doing here. You are old, and that is amazing. You got to grow up, but people back there cannot. And that is because you're standing here being incompetent, doing nothing, and just honestly, people saying, I don't want to waste your time. I do want to waste your time. I would feel terrible having a heavy burden in my heart knowing I'm killing children, men and women, and coming home with a bland rotisserie chicken or steak and salad ready for me and acting nothing happened while millions and more people are dying. I am preventing you from going home and having that burden heart in you. And if you thank me later or not, but regardless, this is just disgusting to see. So that's all I have to say. I'll read more names until time passes by.
Your time is up.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Motion to adjourn.
No, I want to say something.
There's a motion to adjourn, which anyone can second. I mean, it's up to you guys.
The motion on the floor.
Second.
No.
The second.
Mr. Ken didn't ask if there's any other.
I didn't get a chance to cut me off. I didn't even get there. You jumped right in there, Mr. Santana. No
He
disrespect.
didn't call for the adjournment. Yeah. Kenny didn't call for it.
No, I know that, but Mr. James is somehow keep distracting me whenever I try to speak. But anyway,
There's a motion
Gotta
on
vote
the
on the
floor.
motion first.
Got to vote on the motion. There's a motion on the floor to adjourn the meeting, and it was second. I'm asking for a vote of that right now.
but didn't you supposed to ask before the motion was introduced, like, is there any
No,
other
ma'am,
question
not-
or comment?
Ma'am, we've,
Not on the agenda.
it's not, we're going through the whole agenda. We're at the end of it. That was under public comments. You could have spoke. And I didn't mean it's no disrespect. It was a motion, and then it was a second. Therefore, we're at that part of the agenda, and we're voting on the agenda portion of it now. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Rose?
Aye.
Dr. Ruggles?
Aye.
Mrs. Sultana?
No.
Mayor Panter's not here. Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Ettinger?
Aye.
Mr. Pinnabone?
Aye.
Done.
Bang your gun.
Motion. Square.
Yeah.
No, don't do it.